I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Stokes County Board of Commissioners for May 8th, 2023 at 6 p.m. First item on our agenda will be the invocation, and Commissioner Woods will be doing that for us.
Let us pray. Precious Heavenly Father, thank you for the freedom we have together here. Thank you for the help we have together here. Thank you for this great county that you have gave us to lead. Also, Lord, be with the ones that are hurting in this county. Watch over, guide us, and give us a safe trip home. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
One day this chair ain't gonna be me.
That's true.
Next item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes as written. Next item on our agenda is public comments. Do we have public comments? Amber, thank you very much. No public comments tonight. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the comments from the manager and commissioners, and we will start with Commissioner Mendenhall.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I'm a little shower. We needed it. Need a little more. For everybody that's watching the live stream, YouTube, I sure do appreciate it for coming in and being a part of our governmental process here in Stokes County. As I've really done a lot of thinking in the last few days, watch what's going on in the world, watch how people are being censored, censorship of people that doesn't have the same opinion of certain people. Suddenly they don't get to talk no more. They're cut off. Well, there's something called the First Amendment. And I think that is freedom of speech. And I've been doing a lot of thinking in the last few days, so as we go through these meetings from here to the end of my term, there will be some comments made from me that will be truthful, and they will tell the story of Stokes County. And I'm going to tell you what, 66 years old, and as I went through the first two elections, first election went great, top vote getter. Second election, I had a group that decided they didn't like the way I ran business in this county because, it was something to do with I wouldn't bow down and do what they said to do. Well, you know what? My dad would be proud of me right now. He's been dead 9 years. And he told me that there would be people in this world that would try to go behind your back and stab you, no matter what you think. And there are people in this county that this is my 7th year on the Board of Commissioners. I was in the school system 36 years. I was a principal 12 and a half years at Nancy Reynolds, North Stokes, and Sandy Ridge. So I've been doing some riding this past week or two, especially in the northern end of the county, Sandy Ridge, North Stokes, really getting some really good information on some things as we go along. So I'll probably be having in my opening comments quite a few things to say from this point, because there's probably a 99% chance I will not be running in the next election. I've had to go to the cardiologist 3 times in the last 2 months, And he has told me that the stress really is bothering my heart. And I've got to go back and have another echocardiogram in about 2 weeks. And he said that he thinks I can make it through to the end of my term, but not certainly as chairman, but I'm not the chairman, so that's simple enough. And I'll tell you one thing. I'm going to hold back anything from now till the end of my term. End of my term will be the last meeting in November of 2024. That's 8 years I've given this county. 36 years I've given the education system. That's 44 years I've given of my life to this county. I see some people out here where I taught their kids. I see some people out here where I was the principal of their kids. When you're a principal, you get really close to the kids. That's what kept me in it for 36 years, was children. All I can say is, for the next year and a half, I'm not going to hold back anything. You don't like what I say, that's fine. That's the great thing about it. Everybody has their own opinion. You got the freedom to have your own opinion. You got the freedom to express your opinion. Because my dad fought in the Korean War and won the Bronze Star Medal, and you know what he always told me when he was growing up? He said, son, I fought in that war for freedom. So, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. And I want to say to each of you, if I don't run again, I'd really like to, but when your heart doctor tells you that you're getting to the point that you need to back down off of a few things, and I've had some doozies lately. And on SciTech Board of Trustees, and I'm sure most of you have heard some of the things that have happened there. Stokes Partnership for Children. And just want to say that Stokes County is my home for 66 years, and I'm proud of being a Stokes County resident, native. And I will work for you, the people. I don't have an agenda when I come to these meetings. When I called Virginia Smith in 2016 and asked her if she thought I'd make a good candidate, and I won by 8,000 votes, she said, I told you. But there's a certain group that doesn't like people that's able to do that. And they wanted to destroy me and my family in 2020. And I will never forget that. Never. And if the people that tried that thinks I will forget it, they're wrong. And I hope they're watching on YouTube, because I don't see any of them in here. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Mendenhall. Commissioner Chandler.
I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. We've got a good crowd. Welcome the people that are watching on YouTube. Just real quick, a few things I do agree with Commissioner Mendenhall. I think one thing with politics is that's partly what's wrong with our country, beginning at our local level, state level, federal level. I think that when you're elected, you just need to tell the truth. Don't worry about politics. Just tell it like it is. I think if all of us would do that, then I think that our county would function, be more effective, and definitely be more efficient. Second of all, I'm sorry to hear about your health problems, and I think that you do have to. You need to look after yourself and your family first, and you have served Stokes County a long time. And like you said, you're a native of Stokes County, and I think that's great. I'm not a native of Stokes County, but I love Stokes County too. And when I ran for election, I didn't have Virginia Smith tell me she thought I'd be a good candidate. So we kind of come from different sides of the world. I think the one thing we got in common is we want to do what's best for Stokes County. Don't have an agenda. What I want to do is move Stokes County forward, and so everybody prospers. But the easiest way to do that, at least what I'm going to continue to do, is just tell it like it is and not have to worry about when I'm getting ready to leave office that I'm going to tell people I'm going to start telling it like it is, and if people don't like it, oh well. So now for my comment section for the county, I'd just like to remind everybody that National Police Week, Appreciation Week is coming up, and we won't meet again till 2 weeks from now. So I want to make sure that I talk about my feelings for law enforcement. In this country today, for the past several years especially, law enforcement is not supported by a lot of politicians. We're lucky here in Stokes County that our citizens, for the vast majority of us, support law enforcement. Please keep law enforcement in your prayers. We're a rural county, so when you're looking at the sheriff's office, when you look at King PD, they've got to work together. We've got probation and parole, keep them in your prayers, and of course the highway patrol that is here within Stokes County. We never want to take law enforcement for granted. Without law enforcement, without people standing up and doing the right thing and being there, whether it's Christmas morning or Christmas night, our country would be in a world of trouble. And if you want to start looking around the country to see what it can look like, you can go to some large cities, basically Democrat-controlled cities, and you can look to see when you call 911 and the police don't come. At 3 o'clock in the morning on Christmas morning, if someone needs something and they call 911, it's going to be answered, and it's going to be given to a law enforcement officer. And you'll know that you got help coming and you got someone there. It's not on voicemail, or it's not sent somewhere else that will get to you 3 weeks from now. So please, keep them in your thoughts and your prayers every day. The one thing that we want to make sure here in Stokes County is our law enforcement personnel, that they come home from shift to their families. Thank you. That's all I got, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Wood.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. I'm returning from a week off of vacation. I'm going to tell you what, it's still nothing like Stokes County. I was ready to come home on Friday. But one thing, and y'all probably know this, I hope they don't mind me announcing this. I found out yesterday that the True Light Church in Sandy Ridge is starting a men's rescue mission that I think the county needs big time. And they're restoring a building across from the fire station, and I'm sure they would love to see any volunteers or donations to get this off the ground. I'm pretty excited about hearing about this. Anyway, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I'm glad that Commissioner Chandler pointed out about the law enforcement appreciation. I know most of y'all know my son is a law enforcement officer with Winston-Salem, and so that definitely has a special place for me. And he was just at the rodeo in Myrtle Beach competing with the motorcycles, and met a friend of mine's son is down there, and he actually was hit by a car a few days after the rodeo down there, and luckily he is going to make it, and he's not got too bad of injuries. So it's just really gave this mama a little scare when I heard that, because that's my friend's son. But anyway, they put their life on the line every day, and so it's you just can't be appreciative enough of that, because there's not too many people that would do that. So we do, since we won't meet again before then, want to recognize that for sure. Also, I want to say that my heart and my thoughts and prayers go out to the Blake Hughes family. We lost a student since we last met in early college, and it's hard to lose those young people. And our community really showed up at the baseball game at South for his family, and raised some money, and other teams from other schools came to show their support, and that's what this community and this county is about. And that just showed right there how big a heart everybody has for that. I also wanted to put in a plug for October Road. They're going to do their grand opening. I think all of us got the email. The ribbon cutting ceremony for the new substance use and mental health treatment program in Stokes County, which is pretty huge. Jessica Shepard will be there, and a guy named Gary, and he's the director, and I can't think of his last name, but the ribbon cutting is between 11 and 1, 522 North Main Street, Walnut Cove, and we're just very appreciative of the services they offer for our county and those struggling with substance use and mental health issues. It's going to be really big, could be a game changer for our county. It really could be. So,
Do you have a date on that?
It's this Friday, May 12th. Yep, so just recognizing that, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Amber, have you got any comments you want to make?
Yeah, thank you to everybody who's here and who's watching live stream. Thank you to our law enforcement, especially our sheriff's department. I know they do a great job over there, and we appreciate all that they do. I also just wanted to wish everybody a happy Mother's Day who's a mother. I know I'm grateful for mine, and she's done a lot for me, so I just wanted to wish all the mothers out there a happy Mother's Day. Thank you.
Okay, good. I'll wrap up with a couple items. First of all, welcome everybody. It's good to have you here with us. Lynn Knox, who's our new consultant for IT and broadband, sent me a text today, and he had intended to come tonight. He just went through a significant medical event not too long ago, and he is coming as soon as he's able to a meeting to thank those who saved his life. So that's our EMS and Scott, I think he mentioned, Fire Marshal, and a list of other folks that he'll be coming to recognize. He's also going to come back and start working some this Wednesday, so we're pleased about that. I went to the groundbreaking today for a new park. It's a park that Forsyth County is doing in Blues Creek. And let me just read a little short narrative about it. Blues Lake Park will be built on 216 acres of land with nearly 2 miles of lake frontage. The passive park will feature picnic shelters, playgrounds, a comfort station with public restrooms, ADA accessible fishing docks, and walking trails. The county acquired the land from Duke Energy for $640,000 using a grant from the state's Clean Water Management Trust. It will be located in the northeastern corner of Forsyth County in an area that currently has no parks. And where it's actually located, if you go Highway 65, like going to Stokesdale, and when you get to the Dollar General, turning left like towards Stokesdale, it's about another 1.5 miles from there on off of Craig Road. So it's only 3 miles from the Stokes County border, and it is a really nice layout that they're getting ready to put in there and spend a lot of money. And it's really a regional park is what it is. I mean, when you look at it, it'll serve us and Rockingham County as well as Forsyth. So we're appreciative to them and all the legislators and all the folks that were involved in funding that. And I've got a little picture of what it looks like, which I'll just start around, and we can pass out in the audience as well for folks who want to see the conceptual design of what that park looks like. And I think that's all I have. So with that, our next item on the agenda is conflicts of interest. I'll read that statement. Before moving further, does any board member have a conflict of interest with any items on the agenda for tonight, or any that could be perceived as a conflict? I'll go. Okay, next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, minutes, budget amendments, and the tax office information. Anybody want anything pulled off the consent agenda and put on discussion? Otherwise, can I have a motion then for approval of consent agenda?
I make a motion we approve consent.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes. Next item on our agenda is the information agenda. And first, we got two items there. We've got, first of all, an update on the courthouse addition and renovations from Harry Peterson. So, fire away.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Hey.
Great to see you, and I'm happy to be here to show you what the addition of the courthouse is going to look like, and some other updates about dates of things kind of happening with it, so we can make sure you're in the loop on everything going on. And I guess you can see, Lisa, you can see on your monitor that that's one of the views of the courthouse and the addition. And the first thing you'll notice is that the addition doesn't match the existing building. And it's on purpose. That one of the things the Department of Interior says when you're adding on to, say, a historic building or an older building, is to contrast what's going on with that building so that everybody knows kind of what the old is and what the new is. So that's the direction we've taken with this. It's definitely a contrast. What you'll see at the very base is a stone base to the building that kind of defines the bottom of the building, and will be kind of the color of the rock that's all over the place right around the building, so that all kind of, we're kind of merging into nature with the base of the building. Then we go from there and we have a lot of brick masonry, and this will actually be the color like what we did on the addition to the health department building. So as you come in, you'll see that brick, and then as you look in the distance, you'll also see the brick that's matching up on that building. And also the bottom portion of social services is a similar color too. So that's where, when you look at the context of everything going around, you'll kind of see that same color kind of in different views. And also different views to show you. We're getting up a little higher in this case. We're doing some things for actually things like trying to save energy by having the windows in the summer being shaded so we don't pick up as much heat. A lot of things going on with this. The glazing system will be a black glaze system, so it'll look a lot different than the glass that's in the building here too. It's just going to take a much more modern look to it. So we're kind of happy with that. And this is kind of looking kind of up the hill, and you can kind of see how the new and old get together on, as far as that goes. We've got one floor elevation difference, and that we have taken up. And the nice thing about our building is we have no real retaining walls to do or anything like that, so that's a good thing. And then as you're looking at it at the front entrance, you'll be kind of seeing doesn't really stand out terribly far from the existing building. It's only about 25, 30 feet. So it's not tremendously far in the one direction to see that, but you'll definitely see it walking up to the front entrance. And just another view. We've kept the palette kind of simple. I try to do usually 3 or 4 materials, 3 or 4 different colors on a building at the most. After you get more than that, it gets too busy and gets kind of odd. We're in the middle of schematic design, and architecturally, we're almost finishing schematic design. And so we're showing kind of the floor plan in this case that it's actually on our final sheets that we use. You'll sort of see there's a hatched area. Those are areas of the building, of the existing building, where we're not renovating things and staying out of those. So we're trying to make it very clear to everyone, contractors alike, of the areas that don't have work going on in it. So for instance, down on that level, or actually up on that level, clerk court, things of that nature that are up there, they kind of stay put. And over the past year and a half, just about all the floors in that area of the building have been replaced and have had a coat of paint. So we're going to try to keep construction out of there. And then down below you see kind of even a larger area where sheriff's office is. That whole area, we're not actually doing work in that portion of the building, so you can see a lot larger also see in the addition, we've got things that the county doesn't have, which, for instance, now when you have a jury pool, there's no real good place to kind of keep them and meet. So now we'll have a dedicated room that'll seat over 100 people, so that needs of folks coming in to serve as jurors will be taken care of. There's also a virtual court, so essentially if something like COVID happens again, that there's a way to do it virtually. It'll also help out with, say, somebody's in the eastern party gets arrested and needs to be sent back, say to Stokes County, something like that. They can do it without transporting. They can have the first appearance and things in that courtroom. It'll also serve as an involuntary commitment court, so that's something that the county really doesn't have. So there's quite a few things happening on the bottom level of this that'll be new to the county. There's also a dedicated grand jury room that's about easily twice as big as the one that's currently being used for grand jury. And there's also a mediation room down there so that when folks can solve their problems through mediation, we've got a place to do that. So it's going to expand in a lot of cases the things that the court can do. There's also more room for judges' offices, assistants to the judges, things of that nature. So there's a lot of things going on in it. We hope to finish up schematic design in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And if all goes well, I'd like to have our construction drawings done late August so that we bid in September. It has taken me a little while to get up kind of clearing my schedule enough to put every hour I've got into this building, and I finally got to that point, so it's really starting to kind of take off and move, and we're thrilled with that progress. Unfortunately, let's see, well, there's the elevations, or the architectural drawings, and they're not as pretty as the colored ones. Those are the ones we need to build it, but they're all taking shape too. And you can kind of see the height of the building is roughly the same height as the current building, just different materials. The other thing, at the end of schematic design, what we try to do is take a look at the budget, see where we're at with the money, and what we're trying to do there is basically look at where we think we are right now, so that as we go through and keep finishing the drawings, we keep updating where we think the costs are. And we started this roughly 1.5 years ago. And the one thing I remember was Commissioner Mendenhall telling me you can't go over $8 million. And I remember that, and it has stuck with me. So I bring you tonight what I think the statement of probable cost is if we bid it and tried to build it today. And in this case, we've identified more options or more things going on with the building. And right now, currently, what I'm projecting is that budget for the building would be $8.5 million. So it has gone over 8. We put some things in there, though, things we know of. We've actually put more money in for site work and utilities to get that other parking lot. We're noticing kind of where rock is, so we've got a rock allowance put in there. We've also put a 5% contingency allowance, you'll see in that estimating of cost, and that has to do with us not having the drawings as far along that there's a little room there. Now that money could be necessary, or depending on how we do things, it might not be, and that's close to $384,000 right there as far as that line item goes. So there's a lot of potential for things kind of to move differently. The other thing that's gone on, though, that I do need to report to you is that in the existing building, it appears that the boiler is the original boiler of the building, and it really needs to be replaced. And that's something we really haven't budgeted for. And then the control system is an old pneumatic system that also basically at this point in time with the age of the building, it really should be replaced. And we've also taken a look, and the generator too is again original to the building, so it also needs to be replaced. ticket items, and those aren't in our current budget. But it's projected that the cost of those 3 items is right around $750,000. So depending on where the money comes from, if that wants to be rolled into the project, we can roll it into the project. If there's other avenues to get that done, then it's perfectly fine for it not to be rolled into the project. So that's kind of a call y'all get to make as far as that goes. I'm hoping when we bid that the construction industry will be in better shape than it is today. Right now, everything is as busy as it could ever be. Prices are about as bad as I've ever seen them, and you would think with the interest rate that it would be doing something different, but it's not. So everything is, I guess it's pent up demand from COVID, folks not doing things that now everybody's trying to catch up. So the catching up is still going on. I'm hoping by fall that we can get a little bit of a break where we have very good competition to get the best number we can get. I can also report that we've gone through schematic design on the Board of Elections, upgrades to the bank building, and all that's been looked at, so we're ready to go on with the construction drawings to make those changes. The main thing there was adding the storage area that's needed for all the equipment that Elections has. And what we're going to be doing is closing in as much as the drive-through area as we can. There's the 24-hour teller machine that obviously was part of the deal that has to keep going with the bank. So, but we're going to close in as much as we can that's under roof there. But all that's been kind of looked at, and we're in good shape to go ahead and do the construction drawings on that. We're going to go ahead and do those in the next month and a half, so that we could actually put that out for bid even before we bid the courthouse. And the work on that should be less than a 6-month event to get that done. So that would mean just after say the first of next year, a little bit beyond that, we should have where Board Elections wanted to move. They can move, and that'll be well in advance of 2024. So that's the idea, to go ahead and get that done, get them in their kind of more permanent home. I think that's all I need to report at this point. As it stands now, I'm down to, only a couple thousand more decisions to make before we have everything put together. So we're going to try to do those in the way that y'all have always wanted us to do, and that's to do things right, do things correctly, but don't make it cost too much. So that's kind of our driving force. And that's basically what I wanted to share. Any questions from y'all?
Commissioner Cox, you have anything?
I think he pretty much covered it all. I mean, I'm not surprised that the price jumped up some from a year and a half ago. And I think we just need to talk about the boiler and the controls and what we want to do about that. We got a little bit of time, I guess, to decide.
Yeah.
It looks good, though. I like the drawings.
We do have a meeting with our engineer to try to see if both the addition and replacing these existing things, old things, if there's a way to combine them into one to try to get some savings. Typically in mechanical equipment land, if you have one big thing that kind of runs things, it's usually a little more economical to pay for it and run it than multiple big things. So we'll see if there's any way to make any savings there. That's coming up.
Keith, got any questions?
Just a couple. Have you done the test borings yet?
We have not. We know we've got plenty of rock, but actually the best thing going for it, if you look at the building, basically the grade goes away very quickly on that lower level, so that what we almost will be having to do in a lot of cases is actually kind of taking out some rock, create a cushion for the building, and then it's coming up from there, so we shouldn't have to take much rock out to do that.
Could we go vertical in the future if we wanted to? Or that's not considered in your design?
No, we weren't planning on going up. When we see the amount of parking and infrastructure around, that if it starts to get too big, it's not gonna work.
True. That's all I got.
Mr. Chandler? Mr. Mendenhall?
I just want to say, Perry, I'm going to excuse you for that 0.5 million that you went over and asked you for, knowing that any project you take on, you are almost certain to run into some unexpected expenses. Well, it's almost inevitable that you're going to run into something that you weren't expecting. And I know Keith asked a question about, everybody here knows how much rock we have in this part of the county. And I know when I told you 8 million, I wasn't considering the boiler and the generator. But I do want to say, Perry, over the years, of the school system, when I was superintendent to now, you've done a great job for every project we've done. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. We've built 3 schools or school additions, 2 additions and 1 new school when I was in. And now this project, when I said 8 million, I'm gonna let you slide at 8.5.
I appreciate that.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks. Very good. Good presentation. Appreciate it. Just a couple of questions. I think you said the 8.5 includes the 5% contingency, right, of 300 and something thousand. This boiler system and control system and so forth that needs replacing, does that have anything to do with how the new building operates, or is that isolated into
Completely
the old
separate,
building? What are you talking about, having a central unit that does both? Is that what you said?
Potentially, we're gonna see if there's any way to create a savings both in operation or equipment cost to do so.
Oh, okay.
So if there is, we'll do it. If there's not, we won't.
Oh, okay.
But what was anticipated was, we knew kind of going in that we'd have to rearrange kind of the way air is distributed in the building. So there's a certain cost to doing that. It's not cheap either, but the big equipment we weren't expecting to having kind of every piece to be way too old.
Okay. I assume this building will have the latest security kind of systems and everything, state of the art, pretty much.
It will.
Okay. On the bank building, you said a 6-month schedule in advance of. Are you talking about finish it in advance of start of 2024?
We'll be right at.
We have a
January,
primary.
February.
We have a primary and a general election in 2024.
Yeah,
So
we're trying to get them in
before either one happens. Oh, okay. Okay, good.
we thought that'd be the least kind of confusing to the public.
Yeah.
To get them into the one spot and have them in for both elections.
Okay, great. Super. That's all I have then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next presentation under the information agenda is Eric Kramer's here with his crew from River Street, and they're going to give us an update on our broadband project. While he's getting that set up, we just had earlier this week, we had a broadband committee meeting. If you remember, the board established a broadband committee. I sat in on that one a little bit because Glenn Knox wasn't there, and I was kind of curious what they were doing. So we've been going through a process, and Eric's going to address it, I think. But we had to redo the original contract that we had in place because of some statutory requirements that would not allow us to give as large a match to River Street as we'd intended in the original project. So that money then comes back to us, and they've done a little bit of a program restructure with that, I think, to increase the fiber. But we still have that money here in the county in our coffers, and it's designated, and it can only be spent on broadband. It's ARPA money. And when Amber and company did the reporting on that, that's what we told them we were going to spend it on, and we have to do that, or otherwise we'd be in violation of the ARPA rules. So So we'll be looking at how we spend that additional broadband funding, working with River Street as we go forward. So that's my intro. Now you can do the rest of it.
Appreciate that. Commissioners, good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm going to give a brief update on where we stand and then some changes to the scope of well, not really the scope, but the match of the project. I did want to recognize some people I have here from our staff that came along with me. Greg Coltrane, our Vice President of Business Development. Amanda Perry is our Vice President of Sales and Marketing. We have Rob Taylor, who's our Director of Business Development and Government Affairs. Heather Barrier, who's our Director of Network Operations. And then back there with the beard, Zach Church, who's Director of our Network Engineering and Construction. So pleased to have them here with me. So with that, this first slide is just a brief recap of where we started this project back in 2015. The county awarded us a $1.8 million grant of local funds. River Street put up approximately $8.5 million. So that original about $10.25 million investment resulted in us building a backbone throughout the county, which then is the culmination of where we are today. That project itself was constructed fiber cable of 239.15 miles, route miles of 107, over 107, and we passed 2,886 customers with that network. And we've been cutting customers over every month. And the largest customers on that network is the county government school system. So it's been very successful. It's been cash flow positive. We committed at that point in time to go after additional funding that was available through federal and state resources. We did win federal funding in 2 different auctions. The 2023 project is actually 3 projects, so we call them sort of 3 phases. The first phase was through the Connect America Fund auction. That's about 41 route miles. We then won federal funding in something called the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, which is what we're calling phase 2. And these are all for unserved areas that the FCC designated as did not have broadband at speeds of 25 and 3. And so then we recently applied with the state through the Great Grant Program, the North Carolina Bio Office, for a project that was an additional almost 125 miles. And so combined, that's almost 240 miles of the project. So what is on this this slide right here in the light green is all the additional miles are being built off this backbone. So without the backbone, we really couldn't have expanded off into these other projects. And where these light green routes are going of these 3 phases is proposed fiber that will get to all of the unserved areas in the county. So we applied for the Great Grant. Every single location in the county was being covered that was considered unserved. Since then, the FCC has revised their mapping, and we've identified a number of new locations that are unserved. That we all knew were there, we just had to have the maps with better information to identify those. But at the time of this application, this is reaching everyone. This is phase 1. This is the Connect America Fund portion of the project. We had received close to $240,000 in federal funding over a 10-year period that has to be built in 6. Total project cost of this is $1,361,000. It's going to pass funded locations of 120, total homes passed of 378, and those route miles are 42. This phase 2 project, and you'll see here in the orange, is, and this is both phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 2 itself is, we received about $750,000 in support. That project is $3 million on top of the 1.4 we just talked about. We are bearing the cost of both those projects on our own, on top of the original $10.25 million investment. There's 405 new funded locations passed that are unserved, total locations passed of 793, and this phase is again almost 74 route miles. The last phase in the red, what you see here, is the NC Great Grant on top of the first 2 phases. Obviously, this is a large portion of the county, the most rural portions that are unserved. In the red, what was the revision to the Great Grant award that we received is originally the county match was over $1.7 million. River Street was matching at $1,263,000. There was a recalibration of the fact that when you're doing a 3-party agreement, because originally it was a 2-party agreement, that the match has to be equal. And so the actual county requirement's going down by about $500,000, $500,000. And so River Street is picking up that difference. So the actual matches in the contract will be, the county's going down from 1.8 million to 1.26. River Street is going up from about 760,000 to an equal match with the county of 1,263,000. So there's less money required from the county. The grant award from the state stays the same at 4 million, and the locations passed that are funded and unserved are 1,319. The total locations passed for this project is 1,933. So a pretty significant portion of the county being built here. Okay. So that phase 3 is about 125 route miles. What you see on this next slide is, and last time we did an update, part of the RFP and the award to River Street was that we were also going to build a wireless network funded completely by River Street to enhance the coverage to unserved areas. So what you have here in the dark green is our existing wireless coverage, or wireless network, that passes and touches about approximately 4,300 customers. We have identified 4 different locations in the county to touch almost 10,250 locations. That's up from the original scope of the project that was going to cover about 6,300. So significant coverage on the wireless side. Of the customers that don't have 25 and 3 that will be able to get it with this wireless project, that number's gone up from 101 to 1,482. So the coverage is significantly increased. The estimated unserved locations have changed from 881 to 801, and then the cost has changed slightly. The original cost for the actual build of the towers went from 580,000 to 412, and this is just because looking at certain sites and narrowing down exactly the best sites with the best propagation, farthest propagation, the most touch. We found 4 that work really well, and then the cost to install the customers has gone down from 640,000 to 480,000. So instead of 1.2 million, it's 892,000. Less capital cost, significantly more coverage, and then on the fiber side, obviously less money from the county for the same project. And the phase 1 has already begun. And so we just opened up, I believe, 70 locations with a number of orders for those. So that basically, in a nutshell, are the phases. This is the total coverage of the county in summary. So the orange and the red are the actual fiber areas, the dark green and the light green. The light green is the new areas. Going back to what the county will be putting in holistically is approximately 3,063,000. River Street is putting up, in totality, about 15.5 million. And then the state, 4 million. And so we brought in about $1 million of that 15.5 was through the federal funding. So all in all, total investment in the county between the county itself, River Street's matches, and the state award of $4 million is $22.5 million investment in the county for broadband. So significant project. Obviously, wrapping up the agreement with the state is a pretty big deal. We're working on that now. Once that's signed, it's a 2-year time frame. We start the project to finish it. So we have to get that contract signed in the next 2 months, and then maybe 24 months from there to get that done. We've already started phase 1. Okay. So total fiber locations passed, 4,819. Total wireless coverage, 10,250. What you'll see here is some examples. We already put together a marketing plan, number of different examples of different pieces. These are rack cards, first things billboards. This is an example of a postcard. You have that in your packet. And we went through this with the Broadband Committee, and it was very well received. You'll see some examples of some social media posts. So we're touching a number of different different avenues to promote the project. A little bit of some examples on our pricing. Just one thing to note, we have fiber pricing and then wireless pricing on that network. We offer 3 different speed tiers on both types of platforms. Obviously, fiber is the better platform. We want to try to get fiber to as many people as possible. The normal price is $75 for our lowest tier, which is 50 meg by 25 meg. There are discounts that you can qualify for low income, $9.25 for one program and $30 through the ACP program. River Street Communications of North Carolina, the entity that's working this project, is already qualified for the ACP program. Those discounts are available for those that qualify. So that base plan can be as low as $35.75 for a 50 meg service. The 100 meg by 100 meg service, which is our most popular plan, is the retail's at $95. With these discounts, low income discounts, it can be as low as $55.75, and then a gig by a gig, which is obviously the most premier speed on this network, is less than $100. Significant value. Okay. There on the wireless side, it's 55, 75, and 95 for our 3 tiers. And those range anywhere from, with those discounts, to under $16, $36, and as low as $56, just under $56. So this is the same pricing we offer everywhere. So we're not singling out any different pricing. In the county, this is the same pricing we offer across the entire network, wherever we offer service. We spent a lot of time working on a customer-facing map on our website. This is something that we did not have before. For all of our different build areas, we put this together. Stokes was the second one we've worked on. So if you go to myriverstreet.net right now on our website, you scroll down, you'll see different build areas. Stokes County is there. You click on the link, it'll take you to this map. And what you'll see on this map, if you're a resident of Stokes County, is that in the green, those dots represent actual households. You can hover over that household as in a Google Earth environment. You'll be able to see your address and what speed tier you can get. You can go in and put an order. The green is where you can get service. The blue is where we're planning on building, and the orange is actually under construction right now. Okay, and this will be updated periodically. People can go see, are you actually in the build plan or not? And this is on the fiber side. And so this is the fiber project. Then we also have a separate link to the wireless project. So the green dots on this one are the wireless coverage that we currently have, that 4,300. The blue dots here are not the 10,250. These are the actual residents that can have access to wireless services greater than 25 and 3, which was the purpose of the grant. So this is a significant improvement from where we were before. We have this for a number of different counties. So there's really, on the fiber side, it's very explicit. There's a dot at your house, it's gonna be part of this project. You can see it. If it's not, and it qualifies later, we can apply for it and expand on this network in the future. But this is live. People can go to it right now. It's myriverstreet.net. And just scroll down the page and click on Stokes County, and it'll take you right there. Okay. So, as far as the next round of funding, the $2.4 million that was allocated for broadband, the ARPA funds, there is now an available, I think it's $1,136,000. That we've identified already because of the changing in the maps, that through that program, and it's called the BEAD program, the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, and I've mentioned that before. It's been going on for a while. The states are waiting for their allocations. We think North Carolina's got $1.4 billion. They're given $100 million to develop the program. This is for to get any, based on the new maps, any new locations identified with the revised maps that don't have access to what was considered broadband at 25 and 3. They're also saying they'll fund projects for anyone that has less than 100 by 20 speeds, accessibility. So that really opens up the amount of locations now that are considered to be available. And we talked about these maps for a while. Just years have been coming and doing updates. We feel like that we've identified 2,719 additional locations that we can apply for fiber funding to expand off this backbone again, which we call Phase 4.
The BEAD program will be phase 4.
Yes. So that program, like I said, the state's still waiting for their funding. They're still waiting to figure out exactly how they're going to work the program. It's a federal program that basically gives you the guardrails. The state will have a little bit tighter requirements, much like the greater program right now, which we're very familiar with. We've already identified the locations, just coming with the cost to say what's the application look like, what's the required match. I'm sure it'll be a 50-50 match that Riversheet would have to put up. Then we go and ask the state for a certain amount. And I think this would be the final phase of reaching everyone. This last phase is Phase 4. Okay. So just want to make sure to mention that. The Great Grant, I said, is a 2-year time frame. This is a 5-year time frame to build out this project. We feel like the application window should be available sometime mid-2024, but we'll have the cost well-defined before that. And obviously, this project will be well underway and on its way to completion. So that's where we stand. Okay. And there'll be live updates on the website as we go, but I'll come back and do updates as we build the project. Sort of keep what's going on. So with that, that concludes my presentation. I'll answer any questions if you guys have any.
We'll start.
Thank you, sir. Can we go back to the very beginning? And I don't think I was on the board quite at that time. Did you say 2015 it was 1.8 million? Was at the very beginning?
Yeah. So the county gave 1.8.
1.8 in 2015.
Yes, then we built it over 3 years. And what that was 3, I think, $600 tranches. And so as we built it, then the county put that in, and then we, River Street put in 8.5. And so, yeah.
So I came on board in 2016, so y'all had already approved finalize your presentation by saying a total number, did you say 22 or 23 million?
22 and a half, approximately.
22.5 million.
Including everything to date.
And you're saying River Street took care of how much of that?
About 15 and a half million. 4 million came from the state. So that's on, I believe it's this slide right here. Specific numbers were county 3,063,000. So the original 1.8.
3 million,
63.
63 total.
1 million, and then 1.8 million, and then in this great grant, 1,263,000. So that went down from 1.7 over 1.7 million by half million. River Street's putting up 15.5 million, and then 4 million from the state in this last round. Yes. So 22.5 million.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Amber, what we're putting in now, is that coming out of ARPA? American Rescue Plan?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All righty, Commissioner Chandler. First of all, it's a great report. I know in the northern part of the county where I'm at, I see a lot of activity out there with the trucks putting the fiber in, and I know a lot of the residents, they're excited to be getting that fiber. But do you have an idea of the rate of when the residents are notified that, hey, you know, we can run the fiber right in through your house and, you know, and put the Wi-Fi in? What is the success rate? In other words, are there still a lot of people that aren't hooking up to the fiber?
So what we normally see, and where we built the backbone, most of that was served, right? So they already have access. But to build into these areas, what we're seeing, and I'll use King and Queen County as an example. That was a $20 million project, 3,800 homes. So that was everybody. We're already well toward 40% of total locations. So that includes locations that are uninhabited. So really that's a higher take rate.
Mm-hmm.
We would expect to see somewhere in the 65% range of people that don't have an option. And so where we're building in these places, in the orange and the red on the fiber network, these people don't have options. You know, their broadband is significantly, I'll say it's insufficient for what they need. So in these places like a King and Queen where they just don't have anything, you can't even get a cell signal, it's pretty high. And at these rates, between those three plans that I shared with you, once this thing starts going, we already have the first, I think we opened up 70 locations in part of the first part of phase one. We had like 40. And so it's a pretty good take rate.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll expect to see that here. It's indicative of where we see. Most of these locations are all rural, they're very similar. And that's why we're building there. That's why the grant money's there. There's a lot of pent up demand because they've been left behind for a long period of time. So
I'm just kind of curious if you already, you know, if you had competition were the residents switching over to.
A lot of these places, in these new builds, there's no competition.
Yeah.
So they're lining up.
For that or nothing, right?
Right. And so where we see competition, we don't really build where there's competition residentially, just because they already have service. So we're a co-op, we're a nonprofit, our parent company. Our mission is only to build to these areas where people don't have it.
Well, a lot of places have like HughesNet. I mean, they don't have fiber, but they've got.
They ain't got much, I can tell you that.
Well, HughesNet is, I would say, an insufficient inferior option, even Starlink. You can't beat this network. And so I think the people that are on it, the churn is extremely low. Once we get people, we don't lose them. We're gaining customers every month. Fairly rarely on fiber. It's a good investment. One, because you don't see a lot of troubles. We put it underground, so there's not a lot of lightning issues. It's not subject to weather. The reliability rate is in the 90th percentile as far as the support of the system. It's I would say it's foolproof, but it's extremely scalable. So right now I can do a gig by gig. We could change electronics and do 2 gig, 10 gig. The fiber that stays in the ground can be there for 20 years. So that investment, very scalable. So that's why we feel like this project's viable, more so because, and this is probably one of our least funded projects, the $4 million from the state and the match from Stokes County.
Mm-hmm.
This is our first one, so we've stuck with it. We're committed to it. Normally we see 80% funding. We'll be able to put 20. But this is very near and dear to our heart, and we want to see this be successful. It already is, but I think it's about to take off significantly. And for the next 2.5 years, this is going people that need this are going to get it.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
You really want me to say anything?
We want you to click on.
I've battled HughesNet all day today, so I'm not a happy camper.
I'm sorry.
I want to thank you for not showing any favoritism. But keep plugging. Good report. I am hearing a lot of people getting it, so y'all doing a good job.
Cox.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, map you were talking about that is live and the customer facing map. I think, if you'll make a social media post about that with a link, we'll be sure to share it and share it on our county page and get a blast out on that, cause I mean, that's,
We would love that.
yeah, I think people will like that. They can really look and see their address and their, you know, house and what they're, if they're in the green or the orange or, you know, if it's coming, if it's under construction, you know, I think that would be a good thing. I like that idea. And, I mean, it's just, I think people just expect things to happen quickly, and I'm finding out with this whole deal, it's not anything fast about it, but it's getting there. So.
It's not, and I'll say, you know, this one's been a culmination of other things. You know, that we're wrapping up that project in Virginia. That was a 7-year project. It was multiple layers like this one, and it's now that we're wrapping it up, it's amazing. Now this website, if people want to go to myriverstreet.net, just if you don't have a dot here, you can still go in and place an order, and we'll know where there's interest. Because you could be in that 2,719 that we know don't have it, that can be in the next application. Or if we know there's interest, which we already have a bunch of, on the back end of this, if you put in an order, one, we can see if someone just came to look at it. We can see if someone just puts their information in. If they place an order saying, I'd like to purchase this service, we'll know where to build. We'll also know where we want to apply and can gauge that demand. The people that go in this system first are the ones that we market to. So if you're in our system and you've placed an order in here, you're going to get called first. You know, when you start seeing the construction going down your street, you'll see boring machines, they're putting things in the ground. We already have remotes placed here. There will be some new remotes. But, you know, as we get these things lit, everyone on that road is going to know, right? We're going to let them know. So I would encourage anyone that has any interest at all to go ahead and go to the website and place an order. And when you go to the website, you can put your address in. It'll tell you have service right now, or you can go in here and place one anyway. So it's very customer friendly. We spent a lot of time working on this. I think that's a lot of the reason behind the success of these projects is something like this website.
What was the time frame on the wireless, the towers and all? You may have said on the slide, I just didn't write it down.
So in the RFP and the award, it was to be in conjunction with the Great Grant Bill. And so that has been designed. Obviously, it's much bigger than it was when we started. But when we signed that contract, or that same 24-month period, we will build that exact same network. If not
24-month period
Yes.
after this contract is signed with the state. Okay. Thank you. That's all
Else?
I've got.
Just a couple things, Eric. As you're building fiber to, I think you said this the other day, to new customers, you're turning it on. They don't, once it goes by, and at least some of it's getting turned on. It's not waiting for some.
It's not
Magic
by
point,
building the
right.
backbone and the original 1.8 million and 8.5 million investment, that enables us to light customers up sooner than we would have if we were building it from scratch.
Okay.
So it's really a culmination of a number of different projects that enable us to do that.
Yeah.
And because since we own all of it, that we've been building it, it enables us to light customers faster.
Okay.
And
Great.
that was the proposal that we did way back when, was that if we build that backbone network, we'll be able to build off of it. Right.
Yeah.
So yes.
Okay, a couple other quick questions, or just one thing. You said the phase 4 will be the BEAD grant program, and once we get that and we complete that, then we will be finished.
Based on
Pretty much finished. As everybody that wants it'll have it.
Yes.
So what is and this is just a projection on your part, what's the projection of the schedule for that 4th phase? Of like when it would start and when it would end, and I'm not gonna hold you to it.
Right,
Just
right.
what's a date we can tell people this is the end of the project and everybody's. But,
I'm the only one that's going to hold you to it.
Every people that want to hold us to it, yeah, exactly. But like I said, the states still have to be allocating their money. They still have to finalize the program. The state has to finalize their specific program, which will be in addition to the Great Grant program. We think that that'll be fired up mid-2024. The window will probably be open through the end of 2024. Awards probably mid-2025. Then you'll have 2 years after that, probably, well, really 5, but we want to get it done sooner. That's going to be 2025 through 2030, if not sooner.
Okay,
That's worst case scenario.
worst case,
In our estimation of what we're here.
probably 25 through 27 or something realistically.
Probably, the B permit's also very
what I'm saying.
well, because we already have a lot of the backbone built, it's layering off to what we already did, which is what's really neat about this project.
Yeah,
Right.
I
exactly.
think I wrote down, you said approximately around the 5-year time frame for.
Worst case is end of 2028.
2028.
As far as the days for finalizing, like finishing the deal.
BEAD program. Yeah, the BEAD has to be spent. There's a time frame on when BEAD has to be done. So yeah, 2028. So like ARPA funds have to be allocated by 2024. So you have to say these are going toward a project, and then that has to be done, within a certain time frame after that. So that's what's rushing sort of this next thing. Is
Yeah.
that the state's requiring you to say of that ARPA funds it's used for broadband, you would just have to say it's going toward a project. So hopefully by then we'll know, here we go. But sometimes with the state, there's extensions, but of that 1.3 million, we hope to put that toward a project. I'm not sure, probably look a lot like this project, this great grant application.
Okay.
Is what I think. It'll look just like what we just did in the red.
One concern I have, a little bit of a concern, that we'll need your help with, and probably Glenn when he gets back, for our board, is to, I think part of these negotiations for the debt ceiling, one of the things they're trying to, I think the Republicans are trying to get in there is to rescind funds that are not obligated for some of the funding, ARPA and COVID, I think they refer to it. Amber and I've talked to Amber about that this week, but we got to make sure that that funding, that some of which now is increased coming back to us, that we get that obligated and not lose it, whatever we have to do.
Right. You have to say it's being used for something. And we're like, okay,
Yeah, and whatever, and what their definition of being obligated is.
Right.
We got to make sure we understand that.
Right. Is it a live program, signed contract? There's nuances to that. But we're here, ready, wanting to.
Okay, good. Super presentation. Anybody have any other
Thank you
questions?
for the update, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you
come
very
back
much.
anytime you want. Again, appreciate the continued support and the joint investment in the county. This is really going to make a difference. So the next 2 years, we see a lot of traction here. So again, thank you.
We need it. All right, we'll move now to our discussion agenda. The first item is a request to change the position type for DSS employees. And Stacy's, I think, going to present something on that.
Good evening.
Hey, Stacy.
I'm requesting that we be allowed to reclassify 2 current contract workers that we have to part-time temporary workers moving forward. This is so that these workers can help us with some of the most important tasks in our food and nutrition department. Based on the USDA, contract workers are not allowed to do some of the most important things that we need done in our food stamp department, and that includes processing applications and recertifications. So we desperately need the 2 contract workers that we have that are retired food stamp workers to be able to process applications and recertifications. So that would be my request. There's no money involved. We can move money from our contract line to a part-time temporary line. So that would be my request.
All righty. I'll start with Sonia, since you're on the
Well,
board.
we talked about this in the DSS board meeting. I think it's a good thing that we need to do that. It'll help Stacy for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm all in favor of it.
Keith, comment?
I'm good.
Any comment? You good? Yeah, I'm good with it too. I know we've done this in the past where we've been caught on other programs years ago, whenever it was, with contract workers who were limited in their scope. And I think we've done this before, haven't we? Where we convert them to part-time or government employees where they could actually get paid the same amount or whatever, but get a lot more work done. So, yeah, so I fully support it. Did you say you want this on action tonight, I think,
That would
in
be
your
awesome.
request?
That way we can make them do this work tomorrow.
Yeah, and we have a budget amendment ready too. to go along with that.
Oh, you
It'd be
did?
number
Okay.
78, yeah.
Okay, do we have a consensus of the board if we move it to action tonight?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you, Stacy. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Board of Health appointments. Chad here to take care of that. Or he's gonna
I
be-
thought he was coming, but I can
Yeah, if you would, if you want to go ahead,
briefly talk
Amber.
on it. So, as I know, we appointed a couple different members to the Board of Health several meetings ago. Chad Jarvis has requested that the following members be appointed. Tim Mabe, he's a dentist, and he'd go into the dentist slot for a 3-year term. Ross Kaiser, he's a pharmacist, go into a 2-year term to try to get those staggered, so they're not all being reappointed at the same time. And then Keith Lawson, he's currently on the board. They asked that he be reappointed to a general public position for a 2-year term. And all their references and applications are attached.
We just need to open floor for nominations for these three.
Yeah, we can do that. And they do request that it be moved to action tonight since it has already been advertised. And we've already talked about it in a previous meeting as well, because they're not having board meetings right now because they're waiting to appoint these individuals, because they're waiting on the applications and everything to be turned in.
Okay.
I think you left Kim Lewis off. She was on a earlier one, but I don't think we nominated them because we held off on Keith and her, and there was might have even been one more person.
I only put what Chad requested to put on the agenda as he only sent me these 3 names.
Well, they'd already sent those in though. And because we were waiting he was advertising it longer to try to get these other positions. I'm just saying, in case it comes up.
Consider that, that's fine with me. I'm just following what the Board of Health Chair recommended.
Yeah, let's just do these 3 tonight and let, he may have something else
She was for the
going.
pharmacist position as well, so we needed to pick between her and Ross Kaiser, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
She doesn't currently, she's not practicing, and Ross is
Yeah, exactly.
at Stokes Pharmacy. So, but I'm just since she did apply, I didn't want to leave anybody off.
Okay, so we'll open the floor for nominations then for these 3 individuals.
So are we not taking Kim Lewis's name that you said?
You can add her if you'd like, for the pharmacist position, because I know she applied. She was on a previous meeting.
That's true, you can do that if you want to do that.
Well, I just think that obviously if her name was already on there, it'd be like us removing her name.
Right.
Already on there, I don't think we have to. If we already went through this, I mean, I know all 3 of these people, Keith, Ross, and Tim, and Kim, know them all. So, I mean, it's not a matter of me knowing them, not
I
knowing them.
could put her on as in a different role, because they don't have all of them filled.
Yeah,
That's a good
that might
idea.
be what he's planning to do. I
It
don't.
might be.
Because I thought he was coming
think-
tonight to speak on it, but I guess he.
That might be what he's gonna do, and this is how he wants to. I haven't talked to him about it, but
I just want to make sure that we're in good legal standing doing that. Mr. Attorney, are we okay with this, handling this matter?
I'd like to.
Okay. You see, if our attorney says so, if we can do that, we can, I'm not going,
he may have a different role for
that's what
her.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
So just wait.
So we got 3 people here to, so I'll make a motion that, we close nominations.
Second.
You nominate these 3 and then close nominations,
Yes,
right?
that's what I'm asking.
Okay. Second.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the next thing we need to do, I guess, is poll for these 3.
You can
Hold
just,
on action.
yeah, you can just
We
move it
need
to
that to
action.
go to action.
Move it to action,
Yeah, just
yeah.
move it to action.
Oh, that's right, they asked to move it to
Yes.
action tonight, okay. Then we'll poll.
Sure.
All right. Anything else on that, anybody? Okay, next item is the Stokes County Personnel Policy Handbook Review. is gonna talk about that, I guess.
Good evening. How are y'all?
Good.
Okay, so as most of y'all know, the last time our personnel policy handbook was updated was in March of 2021. And prior to that, it had been 10 years since the last update of our handbook. So moving forward, what we're suggesting is to do a 6-step process for an annual review of the employee handbook. That 6 steps would be the Human Resources Department review the handbook and compile updates. The Human Resources Department write new content or revise the current content. And then we would like for the county commissioner to assign a personnel handbook policy review committee and have that committee review updates and make suggestions for changes. Of course, then have legal review and then approval by the Board of Commissioners and then publish and reissue the handbook to all employees. Sorry, I'm about to freeze. I'm very tripping. Anyway, so we reviewed the handbook and like I said, this is not at all this is not everything that we would like to touch when we revise the handbook. This is just everything that we have encountered since the last review of the handbook that we've took note on. So we know that there's multiple other changes and additions, just words that need to be taken out or replaced. So like I said, this is not everything that we want to touch. This is just giving you all an idea of the major concerns that we have right now. Those are that we would like to add the description of responsibilities, and we would like to add that for the Board of County Commissioners, the county manager, and department heads. We feel like this would clarify expectations and responsibilities within the organizational structure. I know that you all get phone calls a lot, and a lot of the times the situation is already being handled within the department or within the Human Resources Department or with the county manager, but we feel like something like this could probably cut down on a little bit of that. We would like to add proper procedures for leading up to and following dismissals in our disciplinary action. We feel like providing a procedure would better protect the county from wrongful termination allegations. Under work week in our current handbook, we have flex schedules, but we'd like to elaborate that on a little more, only because recently we're allowing employees to work flex schedules more often, either to boost morale or to help with life situations that we have no control over. But we feel like with that growing trend, it would be better to have some guidelines for those employees that do work flex schedules to follow. Right now, under the family medical leave policy in our handbook, it says that you must return to work from family medical leave in order to not have to pay back your health insurance premiums that the county covers while you're out. So that's $680 some a month per employee. Well, we've had several occurrences where an employee will go out on FMLA for 12 weeks and come back and work one day because our policy says you must return to work. So they'll come back, work one day, and then turn in their 2-week notice, and here we are stuck with, we've paid $2,000 worth of health insurance premiums. So we did find where general statute says that if an employee returns for at least 30 calendar days, they are considered to have returned to work. So we just want to add that under that policy to help us out. Under employment procedures, requirements, and incentives, we would also like to include guidelines for initial selection, interviewing, and employment offers. I feel like a well-defined recruitment and selection guidelines would help ensure to make the best hires as possible and reduce bias in the process. Consistency would help cover the county legally during the recruitment process and guarantee no discrimination. Another big thing, we did just add funeral leave during the last employee handbook update, and we did that for one day. And we've had a few people who've lost family members during this time, and our current policy gives 1 day for funeral leave, and we just feel like it would be a great benefit to allow our staff more time to mourn. So we're asking for that to be changed to bereavement leave with up to 3 days off for the death of an immediate family member. And in our handbook now, immediate family member is mentioned several different times, but in the handbook, immediate family member changes depending on what policy you're following. So we would like for the immediate family member to change that definition throughout the whole handbook to include a spouse, child, parent, grandparent, grandchild, brother, sister, or the half-step in-law or adopted relation to that list. So under emergency callback policy, we would like to describe emergency situations as over and beyond regular job duties. We'd like to add an emergency or natural disaster compensation policy. We need to do this in order to receive reimbursement funds from FEMA should we go through a natural disaster. The professional dress code definitely needs updating. I feel like we need to add a bullying policy, and then of course we need to add in our background check policy and our personnel evaluation policy. So after all this, we'd like to ask you all to send us any suggestions or changes or additions that you all would like to see when we're looking at redoing this employee handbook. And if you could get those to us by June 1st, that would be great, because we're hoping to bring you all a revised version at the July 1st Board of Commissioners meeting.
Is the committee gonna be working on that? A committee, or how do you wanna do the committee?
Well, do you want to go ahead and start with a committee? That's how we did last time, but we kind of chose, the way that we put our committee together last time was we chose employees who worked with large numbers of employees. So we had somebody from EMS, and then we had an administrative person from the Sheriff's Department. We had somebody from DSS, somebody from Health. So we tried to grab from all departments so that way we could get an input from all departments. I didn't know if that was something you all wanted us to do. If y'all want to go ahead and let the county manager do that.
I think that'd be fun.
Agreed, everybody agreed with that?
The more eyes you have on it, the better. Just the more people thinking and
Oh, yeah.
considering.
Yeah, because, and a lot of times you have different departments doing, like, we have a flex schedule in several different departments, but everybody's flex schedule's not the same. So you at least want to make your policy to cover and make sure everybody's being treated fair, but also putting in the number of hours they're supposed to put in.
Yeah, that's fine.
Any other comments?
I think, with the way the laws change all the time and stuff, I mean, it's amazing that 10 years went by without
ought to be
updating it.
reviewed
So,
every 10 years.
annual review is a good idea, I think. Yeah.
Your comments, Katie? Questions?
No, I think it's great. At least every 2 years at the max.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably not gonna have to change a lot of things every year once you get it in a good
Right.
spot, but,
But right now, you're proposing to change it, to update it once a year,
So at
right?
least review it annually. I feel like there needs to be a good, eyes put on it and make sure that we're in compliance with everything annually.
Okay. And maybe or maybe not reissue it.
Yeah, maybe not, do a complete redo and reissue every year, but definitely do a review with your review committee.
Okay. Commissioner Chandler, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just very much needed, a total revamp. And I got a lot of suggestions, but I won't bore everybody tonight. But one quick thing I would just like to ask on one of the bullets that you have here, when you're talking about dismissal or investigations up into including dismissal for employees. I mean, do y'all have a form that you give the employee when he's placed on an investigation that outlines what the employee is charged with or being investigated for and kind of what their rights are?
We don't have a uniform form from our department, no. Each department handles that usually when they're doing an internal investigation themselves. I don't know if she has had to do an investigation since we've been in HR, but no, but we can definitely put that on there.
Yeah, I would think that that's, kind of a high ticket thing that probably, y'all need to kind of figure out kind of quick. And y'all need to be clawing back all these forms that everybody just comes up with in each different department and everything, and just doing their own thing, I think you're just opening yourself up. I mean, even if it's legally sound, it doesn't make the county look very professional. Then the last thing is, and I mean, do y'all read Garrity and certain, like if it's also a criminal offense, if you're looking at you're in an investigation with an employee, so it's a dual thing. Say it's a fraud situation. So you got a state statute, it's a criminal offense, and then you got an internal investigation. So you got two different things going on. And obviously you tell the employee you want him to be truthful. So you read Garrity, which basically says that, hey, we understand that, you know, you have a right of, you know, the Fifth Amendment. You have a right to have an attorney. You don't have to talk in a criminal proceeding. So basically what the form says is, hey, this can't be used against you in a criminal court. We have that? Y'all need to look at that too. And now I'll save the rest for later.
Mr. Mendenhall?
Well, I guess I'm sort of like Commissioner Chandler. I see several areas that I think we really need to brush up on here. I'm going to tell you, the personnel handbook is one it's almost like a Bible to a preacher, because it can keep you out of a lot of trouble. If you don't have it right, you don't have the right wording, our attorney will be earning his money all the time. And situation is, I see real quick, I think absolute annual, every year. You review it. You review it every year. You might not come up with one or two changes you want to make. That one or two changes might save the county hundreds of thousands of dollars. Two, I've gone over these with the group that are very important to me. The background check policy, that's going to be a biggie. If we hire somebody and we haven't done our work on background check, we can get ourselves in a lot of trouble. Somebody might say, didn't you do a background check? Well, if you didn't do one, we hire somebody that might have been a sexual offender and that got biased, we're going to be held responsible. And the third one is, I'm glad to see that it's highlighted, is the bullying policy. I tell you, that can get very sticky, the bullying policy. So I really definitely want to see some wording that our attorney agrees with on the bullying policy, the background check policy, and I'd like to see an annual review. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. The only comment I would make is that since we're getting ready to do a budget starting the next meeting, this is kind of a big job if we do it right, and we may be on a little bit too aggressive schedule here. I don't know what you guys think, doing this in the budget.
I think the same thing.
We might or might not meet the dates that you have recommended.
That's
We'll try. We'll get it done though. But there's a lot to do all at one time. I'm also kind of curious about updating the professional dress code, what triggered that. But I'll wait to see what y'all have to say about that. That should be interesting. Does anybody have anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it.
Good to go.
We'll get working on this. Okay, the next item on our discussion agenda is the Substance Use and Treatment Committee recommendations from Derek Vicker. I think Vicker's just going to present for that one.
Now, Derek, don't get carried away tonight.
I'm not. We'll make it quick. Does everybody have, before I start, there's two documents I'm going to refer to, and they look like this. Does everybody have a copy of these?
What are they?
They're in
They should be on the
Well,
agenda.
they're attached.
No, I'm serious. We got two documents here. I
Okay.
need to know what they're entitled.
All right, so this is from the state of North Carolina. It says at the top, Exhibit B to NC
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you look in the top left corner, it'll say updated May 4th, 2013, because when this document came from the state, it didn't have page numbers, and at the bottom they all said page 13. So I've updated that to reflect page numbers. That way it's easier to reference. The second document at the top says Stokes Substance Use Treatment Subcommittee Recommendations Issue Brief. And at the top far left corner of that, it'll say page 1 of 8. And I have physical copies if anybody wants it.
I need,
This one.
Derek is prepared because we work together on the partnership of children, so I'm sure he's got it right on this thing.
So who else wants one besides Mr. Mendenhall?
Fine, I got it on the computer.
I've got mine
Okay.
from earlier today.
So the oh, you want to sit back down? Okay, no, that's good. Thank you. The document I'm referring to right now, at the top it says the substance use recommendations issue brief. The very first part talks about the synopsis. It talks about the 4 subcommittees that were developed. The 4 subcommittees involve, in total, every person of Stokes County in some form or fashion. The emergency services subcommittee is comprised of individuals who have experience in law enforcement, fire rescue, EMS, other first responder activities, as well as court-involved personnel. The Connections to Care subcommittee is comprised of individuals who have experience regarding substance use disorder, behavioral health, and mental health, medication-assisted treatment, and service providers in Stokes County. The Community Coalition Building subcommittee is, already said that, sorry. Lived experience subcommittee is comprised of individuals who have had experience either through a loved one or themselves in relation to substance use disorder, mental health concerns, behavioral health, or medication-assisted treatment. Number 2 lists those subcommittees with all the names on them, and then it starts going through with all their individual recommendations. I would like to draw attention to page 7, which is the summary. The summary involves the recommendations of more than one subcommittee. Each subcommittee may have had individual recommendations, but the summary involves multiple recommendations for how the opioid, sorry Ty, that's okay. The summary involves all the recommendations from multiple subcommittees. There are 13 of them, and that is what is being presented to the county commissioners to decide and discuss. Moving forward to spend opioid settlement funds in the county. It's a lot. I get it. I understand. This doesn't have to be anything that's decided on tonight, obviously, because there's 13 different items. But we did want to present what was discussed by professionals who are working with folks who are directly impacted by this, and folks who have expertise and experience in these fields.
All right, you finished?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Commissioner Chandler, you want to comment, start, questions or comments?
So, I mean, Derek, I've attended one of the main committee meetings
Yes, sir.
that you chaired. I also attended a subcommittee meeting, which you're, a member of. And y'all do a great job. And I appreciate you and everybody that's doing this, because you're right, it's a lot, and it's a lot to unpack. For the most part, and I think I think you've heard me say this even in the 2 committee meetings that I attended, is I'm somebody that comes from the point of just to do a program and keep doing a program year in and year out. I mean, if we don't have performance measure and we don't identify success, I think that, if what's that crazy thing, if you keep doing the same thing over and over that fails, the crazy part is you keep doing it. And we don't have an infinite amount of money here in Stokes County. So I wouldn't recommend throwing everything into one big bucket that may turn into a hole, and then in that hole just gets lost, and then everyone stands back and says it's not my fault, it's not me. I spent the weekend reading this stuff, and and most of the lingo I understand, and a lot of my partners in Cumberland County and Fayetteville, doing what y'all do. So I get a little bit of it. I'm not an expert at it, but the one thing I'm pretty good at is identifying ways that make people accountable. So my first question is, how did you determine what went in? Just take for the summary on page 7. So as you go through all that, so what was the format, or who made the decision that this is it? And I'm not saying the final thing, but I'm saying what this summary here. Who made the decision?
So I just want to make sure I understand your question. The list that starts on page 7, the actual items themselves?
Well, yeah. So where you narrowed it down a little bit for the summary.
Yes, sir. Anything that was mentioned more than once by the 4 subcommittees went into the summary. So a subcommittee may recommend something that doesn't apply to other subcommittees, so it was only recommended once. That didn't go into the recommendation. Because of things that were mentioned multiple times, that went into the summary. If you look at Exhibit B, NC MOA, the state of North Carolina says these are the only things you can do with the opioid settlement money. And so we created the 4 subcommittees that discussed and talked about these specific strategies, because we can say we want to do anything. We can have pipe dreams all day long, but if it's not in this document, it cannot be spent with opioid settlement money. So that's what this is. Then we went with different subcommittees, and if you look at subcommittee member list, it's on the first page. It tells you everybody who was involved, and that could be anybody from Chief Deputy Cone all the way to folks who work at DSS, folks who work in the health department. These are folks who specialize in this specific industry, in this specific field, and these were the recommendations that they had based on the available options and strategies outlined by the state of North Carolina.
So, and like you said, when you come up here, obviously, this is just the beginning point. But y'all are the professionals. So, I would like someone to come on point and start telling us, the board, this is what we think fits for Stokes County. And then we need to look at what's success. Just because we get, if we have a little under $500,000 right now in our bank account, just to start giving money out for programs that we currently have, and everything starts to bleed after a while. So, when you look at the members, we've got DSS, we got the health department, we got EMS, and we go around the gambit. And so if everybody's just latching on to say, hey, I need $80,000, and I'm going to do X, but then we just gave you MOE funds that does, that fits the same criteria. So what are you going to do different? Are you going to enhance the program, or is it going to, do we split off and do something different?
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, I need
some
feedback.
of these programs are new. Some of these programs are enhancement. If, for example, and I'm just putting an example out, it says public education related to drug disposal. So there are currently 3 disposal sites in the county that my community coalition installed in 2010. And so those are already here. If you're talking about enhancing services and making public education awareness about that, that could be something as a mailer. It could be something that is posted on social media. It could be something that is on a website. It could be something that is easily done. However, when you look at the number one recommendation, which was recommended by all 4 subcommittees, provide the full continuum of care of treatment and recovery services for opioid use disorder and any co-occurring substance use disorder, mental health condition, including supportive housing, peer support services, counseling, community navigators, case management, and connections to community-based service. That's something that's new. That's not something that's already happening as far as a universal, tied together service. Now, there are folks who work at DSS, there are folks who work at the health department, there are folks who work at the food pantries, who, when someone goes to them with an issue and says, I need help paying my power bill, I need help paying school fees, anything like that, it's siloed. Whereas something like this would not be siloed. This is something that would fall under. But then you're also talking about different populations. You're talking about, I don't want to say regular population, but a population who does not have any substance use disorders, has not been in the judicial system. What sort of awareness do they need? If someone is in pre-trial or pre-release from the jail system, they require a different set of infrastructure and support. And so that's where something like this comes up, and it was recommended by the 4 subcommittees. This is something that we can move forward with. This is something that I understand is a lot. I understand there are 13 strategies here, and you guys want the answers from the professionals. You're the only decision makers who can make this happen. The only 5 people in the county who can decide what happens to this money are right there. So we can do that. We can move forward. We can narrow this down some, because we're talking about some new services, but you're also talking about enhancement of services, enhancing and supporting the infrastructure that's already here to support our residents.
I mean, I guess so, and taking from, your body of work and the subcommittees, and then taking from research that I've read and talking to other people that are in the business, not just in Stokes County, but in the state of North Carolina. So I think simply put, we can say, look, we need prevention, right? And then the second thing is of course, treatment, and then harm reduction. And I think those 3 areas are something that we need to focus on. And in focusing on those, then I think that, I personally think that we need one person to develop and coordinate a strategic plan for the whole substance abuse program. And then the other thing is, I think we need peers to help navigate the system. Whatever the system is, we need somebody within the system to do it. And I'll give you, and this is on the opposite side of the world, but I'll give you an example. So it's like on police departments where situations go down that involves like a death, like say an officer dies suddenly. So you have their immediate family, of course, is still alive, and they're going through a grieving process. Well, there are so many different regulations and so many things, paperwork you have to file, and also different types of counseling services. There's a whole circle of stuff that's running through. So what police departments do is they have a survivor officer, kind of like the military. So in other words, someone of a command level nature, experience, or rank, that so when something traumatic happens, that officer passes away suddenly, then that person knows and has all kinds of resources to ask for the family, to ask questions, and then for them to navigate through, they're already traumatized and going through hell as it is. So I think in a way that's kind of with the substance abuse too. When you have families that lose somebody either through death or they're just, they're addicted and they're running circles. And so I think we need somebody to help navigate that, because it's probably not going to be a one shoe fits all. And then the last thing, I think that Stokes County needs a visible location. to where it's a one-stop shop, to where be mental health treatment and combined substance abuse treatment. That's just my opinion, and it's a kind of a roundabout, you know.
Yes, no, and I understand. The number one recommendation does talk about continuum of care, which would involve a lot of that. But if we're talking about one-stop places, I mean, the health department only has MAT on Tuesdays. There's a new facility opening on Friday that does behavioral health and substance use disorder as well as MAT. One of the issues that we're going to see is stigma related to it, transportation, which is another major issue, and then just the realization that someone who wants to get help are able to get the help. Because even if you did want to get help right now, you'd have to maybe wait a week for a clinical assessment, and then you would get put on a wait list to go somewhere, unless you had the money to go to South Carolina or go to Florida. This isn't a...
You're definitely gonna have to go out of our county.
Yes. This isn't a catch-all for everything, but based by, and the folks who were on the subcommittee list, I believe them to be some of the sharpest folks I've worked with. A lot of them are county employees, or they are working with this population for an extended period of time. I've only been doing it for 9 years. If these are the recommendations that they wanted and suggested, I believe it is something to pursue. I understand if we need to maybe narrow this scope and narrow this focus down, that's something that we can do. But it has to start with doing something.
Yes, has anybody on the committee looked around to like maybe some of our surrounding counties?
Yeah, we spent a good couple hours talking to Wilkes Recovery. They're doing a tremendous job.
Who is?
Wilkes
Recovery.
Recovery. We
Alright.
had,
And they actually said, if you don't mind me speaking, they actually said we have a really great program going on in our county as far as the community paramedic program. They're actually just starting a community
Yeah,
paramedic
we're ahead of
program, but
them
they
on
said
that.
what we're missing is peer support.
yeah,
That's
the
how
peer
they were
support that you were
originally
talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
Originally off of peer support, everything was off of peer support, and they're available 24/7. Having someone that's had that lived experience come in at the time of crisis and help somebody, offer them, the next day if they need to go to a doctor's appointment or an MAT appointment, whatever it may be. That's where we're lacking.
Have y'all checked for Surrey County?
Now,
See what they do?
I've heard some research on them, but not a whole lot.
They
The
got
problem
a,
with the surrounding counties is they aren't Stokes. They're 2 or 3 times bigger than Stokes. They've been addressing this issue for more than 10 years. The Surrey County Opioid Active Response Team, I think that's how it's said, but it's SOAR.
substance abuse or something.
Yeah. Mark Willis runs that. And the thing is, Mark Willis has been doing that for 10 years. And we're starting last year when we formed this committee. And so that's one of the issues. Another one of the issues is that the next 18 years, we're going to get a little bit over $4 million. Some of these counties are getting that just in a few years. So the things that we're looking at doing and the things that we need to do need to be sustainability focused and success focused. So I understand the concern of we've got a little, around about $700,000 in the bank for this right now, and I understand taking that pot of money and just not throwing it and seeing what sticks, but actually putting it towards programs and services that are sustainable and that show success. There are ways that happens, but if you can prove that a program works, it doesn't just come out of this pot of money anymore. It becomes a line item on your budget that says this works, this saved lives, this did this reduced recidivism, this helped transition folks out of jail and into work release programs and work training programs. They got their GED, they got their if not their license, they got a state issue ID card. This can't all be solved in the next 8 months, but this would be something that with the right approach, with the experts and expertise by the folks I believe who are, like I said, some of the sharpest folks I've come across. This is a start, and we can get on our way. But like I said, it is 13 recommendations. It is a lot. Some of these things are already happening. Some of these things are going to be new, and some of these things are going to be uncomfortable because you start talking about harm reduction. Harm reduction looks different to a lot of folks. But what is proven is harm reduction reduces the infrastructure and the strain on the infrastructure of the emergency medical system and the first responder system. Because if you're talking about an overdose in Stokes County, it is EMS, it is fire response, it is law enforcement, it is narcotics division. You're talking about some difficult conversations that the 5 of you are going to have with folks, because they're not going to call me on the phone to ask why we are, if we're offering MAT and if we're offering transportation to substance use disorder types of recovery programs or treatment programs. Well, why can't I get support or treatment for my daughter's insulin or my son's EpiPen? That's a difficult conversation that you guys are going to have.
What would your recommendation be then?
For this,
Don't do it. Don't, just the question you just gave.
I would, it sounds, if it's in the document, it's in the document. This is what you can use that money for. It's that simple. But there is, I guarantee you, there is help for some of those folks who may have issues that may want to complain about some of these things because their daughter's insulin might not be covered or their son's EpiPen might not be covered.
So we tell them it's not in the document.
Yeah.
We can only spend that pot of money on what's in the document that the state tells us. I'm ready to talk whenever you are done.
I'm almost done.
Go ahead.
I don't want to play politics. What I want to do is put together a program that works, and if it's not working, then we change it. But we've got to document things, and we got to have a goal. You know, what is success? Success to me is not giving $450,000 in 2 months to a program that I mean, I don't know who to hold accountable to it. I don't think it's fair to hold our county manager accountable for it. I mean, y'all sit on a committee. So, I mean, who is going to be the one, I mean, taking votes? And then, so we go with one program, and then, so what happens if, you know, if we want to change, I don't say us, I'm talking about.
No, y'all are the decision makers. Y'all decide what we do and whether we're going to keep doing it.
I mean, we need one person, my opinion, we need one person that is a shot caller, makes decision. And that's what I like about Surrey County, is they've got somebody that is accountable.
Yes.
So whether the program has been going on 10 years or whatever, but I'm thinking that's a place that I want to look at, because you got 10 years worth of data that you can kind of look at to see what's successful and what works and what hasn't worked. I'm not saying we have to adopt the whole thing.
Right.
All I'm saying is you look around and find programs, and then you bring them back and you just take bits and pieces of what works for Stokes County.
So is that Mark Willis or Jamie Edwards?
Pardon me?
Is that Mark, when you're talking about Surrey
Mark.
County, is that Mark Willis or Jamie Edwards?
No, it's Mark.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a substance abuse. They have a team.
I know.
Yeah, okay.
Department head over there over this, don't they?
Huh?
Yeah,
A
that's
department
him.
head.
That's him.
Yeah,
That's
Mark
right.
Willis, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It goes back to the size of Surrey. It all goes back to the size of the county, taxes that are brought in, and where the money's going. Some of the stuff that they're doing with Surrey County is some of the same things that they're doing in Wilkes County, which are some of the same things that were recommended to us, which are in the recommendations.
Is it working?
Absolutely. I would, yes. Their program is growing
Stokes
and
is
it's
really
expanding.
rolling.
They have a ceremony every year to recognize the ones that they've lost. Her name is Devin Lau. She said she'd be more than happy to, jump on a meeting, come here in person, present. I mean, what they do, and I mean, they involve, from all aspects, from the very beginning all the way through pulling their survivors and, people who are in crisis. I mean, they work on their farms. They have a produce market. They have a shelter. I mean, it is an open connection, but it started with them based off of a piece of real estate. They have a central hub that can provide a lot of this stuff, and that's one thing that we are lacking. We're getting a little over $4 million, but we can't take a huge chunk of that and buy a piece of property in order to have all these resources.
That's what you were saying about a visible location.
Yeah, but I'm not. I I think there's other options. I don't think.
What's the time frame on spending this money?
I don't know.
I mean,
We get an
we
annual
don't have
amount,
to.
right?
Yeah,
don't
we
have-
get it over the next like 17 years.
But our
If
hair's
there
not on
is-
fire to get rid of it.
No,
We have
but
17.
we ain't gotta make any decisions anytime, like right now, or even during budget, because the money is budgeted and set aside
It has
for
to be spent
this.
specifically.
So it's not like it's
It's a separate line item.
exactly part of the budget that has to be done during
We can
budget.
take baby steps.
You're
But,
done? You done? I'm done.
well, yeah, he might think of something else in a minute based off of something else that is said, but I think Commissioner Chandler brings up some really good points that the visible location is something that we've talked about because people do need to see a place that they can go and see a real person and not talk to a machine, or we'll call you back, get an answering voicemail or whatever. I mean, it's good to have somebody that they can talk to. That's where the peer support specialists, I think, come in, and they have so much more buy-in because they have been in addiction and they are in recovery, and the peer support specialists that have been in addiction that's invaluable, and we don't have nearly enough of those in our county. However, VIA just did the training, we're getting more of those, but what I look at this document as is like just kind of a guide, a starting point for our conversation. But what we were talking about in our meeting today was what we need to do is, and I think Wanda Pierman mentioned this, is we need to be informed of what's being offered in the county now and by who, where the gaps in service are, where are the gaps, and what do we have that could be enhanced that we are doing that's working. But like you were saying about the success and measuring it, North Carolina is one of the, and Ty may know this too, a few states that are requiring reporting and measuring of the success. Some of the states are not even getting any reporting back on how the money is spent, and people are just buying whatever they want to buy with the money and not spending it on opioid reduction or other substances that are related, other co-occurring conditions. Because a good point was brought up today that they're seeing a lot more fentanyl and meth and things like that right now, overdoses, than opioid. And this is supposed to be opioid reduction. But it does say in the language, any co-occurring substance use disorders or mental health conditions, which broadens the scope of what can be done with it. And you mentioned, I think Brad mentioned prevention and harm reduction and treatment, but also one important thing is recovery. Those in recovery and trying to keep people from relapsing that are in recovery so they have support. And I think that's one of the 13 things that's mentioned here. And I'm not opposed to having a point person that could be, but I think we've got people like the community paramedic program and Wanda, and we've got people even in parole and the court, what's it called, the court, Nora Gann?
Pre-trial.
Yeah, pre-trial, that are doing some of that work. But do we need a coordinator for all of it? Maybe we do. I mean, before I was on the board, a long time ago, even before Wanda, I think they hired somebody to sort of do some of that stuff, but it was a guy, and I don't remember his name, but I don't know that he had any clear direction, so it kind of fell apart because he just probably didn't have the guidance to do the job. So that might not be a bad idea, a coordinator type person, a peer support specialist / coordinator person. I mean, and that's something I feel like if we as a like he said, it's ultimately up to us what we decide to spend it on. And I don't want to just throw it at something. That's why this committee has taken as long as we have to come up with stuff, looking at what other people are doing and what's working in other places so that we don't waste the money and we spend it wisely on things that work. And it's like I said today in the meeting, we need to spend it on things that the families of these people in addiction and these people battling substance use disorder, they see that there's help. They want help. You know, these families want help, and we need to spend it in a manner that they see that's exactly what we're trying to give them, is some help and a lifeline, because that's what they want. And people who want help, and I'll just throw this out there, I mean, this fall, I think, that I called Laura, and I was like, my nephew got out of prison. He was not out very long till he relapsed, and we couldn't find anywhere for him to go. He was been through all the different channels so many times, and people won't help, and there's just nowhere. That's what we need to provide, a lifeline. That's all I got right now.
Your comments, questions?
Well, I see Brad's point of view, but we don't want to smother it either. I mean, we got to find some committees and trust. I will say, I was in Wonko this morning, and it felt real good to see October Road sign up and shining when I come through Main Street. So that's one of the first steps of getting. We need something key. We need several of these things. I mean, we just got to be smart and go in the right direction. And
my name is Wanda Pearman. I work at DSS as the Mental Health and Substance Use Liaison. I could probably thank you guys for my job. I started about 5.5 years ago, and my role there is to help people get into treatment. That's what I was told when I was hired for this position. And what I found is that a lot more came with it. About every report that DSS gets and CPS, Child Protective Services, has allegations of parental mental health and substance use. Every one. There are some cases in which IDD, intellectual and developmental disabilities, may be in the allegations. What I found problem that we run into, you would think that when parents are faced with losing custody of their kids, if they don't stop their use or if they don't go for mental health treatment, you would think that they would do that. That's a rational decision that somebody would make. However, when they are in active addiction, they don't make rational decisions. And they're not at a stage of, they're not ready for change. So engaging them in treatment has been a problem. Trying to get them to get the help that they need. That engaging them, that is very, very difficult to do. When I started 5.5 years ago, we had nothing in this county above outpatient treatment for substance use. You cannot have somebody who is using highly substances and expect that a 1 hour a week or 1 to 2 hours a week of treatment is going to be enough. It's not. So I called the CEO of Daymark and I said, we need an intensive outpatient treatment program here. And he said they won't come. Can't get the clients to come, can't support it. And it goes back to that engaging the people and getting them to come to the treatment. Cardinal was the LME at the time. I called Network Ops, and they agreed to let Stokes residents go to Daymark in Surrey, which has a really good intensive outpatient program. But then COVID hit, and with the COVID, they were able to increase telehealth. So Daymark was able to start linking folks
folks virtually to the intensive outpatient program. And Surrey, Daymark in Surrey does Suboxone treatment, so we were able to link folks there for the Suboxone treatment. But today, we not only have Daymark, right now they're been going through some changes, but they can still link those folks to Daymark and Surrey for the Suboxone and the intensive outpatient. We now have October Road, who is going to do intensive outpatient and Suboxone treatment. And we have a doctor at the health department, even though they're there 1 day a week. That's 3 different providers for the Suboxone treatment. So, along with the increase in the intensity of the treatment and the MAT for Suboxone, we have the faith community, faith-based services, and the faith-based community is stepping up in this county. And Tammy is here tonight, and she provides lots of services, and they're a little different services than like what Daymark or October Road, but we've got to all work together. Now, one of the gaps that we have in folks getting that Suboxone treatment is there's no funding for the actual Suboxone. In North Carolina, if you don't have health insurance, there is state funding that's going to pay for mental health, substance use, and developmental disability services. For methadone, state funding covers methadone. It will not pay for the Suboxone. So you've got uninsured clients that can go to Daymark or October Road and get linked to the treatment portion. They can see the doctor, they can go to the individual group treatment. There's no money to help them with Suboxone. So that's an example of the gaps in services. So I think it's important that we look at what we have here, because we are expanding. VIA is really backing October Road. But we need to see where the gaps in service, like money needed for Suboxone. And those are the things that I think we can use some of this money for. You mentioned the centralized location. One of the things, and working at DSS, people don't usually call from the community and say, I want help. But sometimes I get calls from family members and they have no idea who VIA is. The mental health reform in this state happened back in the early 2000s. It is ridiculous that the communication is not better, that everybody in this county doesn't know who VIA is. That's an important piece of information, especially for Medicaid personnel. But people call and they don't know where to go. They want their son or family member in treatment, but they don't know where they can go. And if I talk to someone who's actually using and is looking for a place to go, they think they can't get help because they don't have insurance, and that's not true. And so hope is the one thing that we really have to give folks and let them know that yes, the resources are there and we can get you help. They're limited, our resources are limited, and we do have some gaps in service, but yes, we can get you some help. When it comes to things like detox, level of care of detox or residential, we have nothing in this county. We have to look to outside the county. Most of the time, I send folks to Daymark Behavioral Urgent Care in Winston, which is a 23-hour, they call it a 23-hour facility. What they're going to do is they're going to assess the person. If they meet the criteria for detox or residential, they're going to find an available bed for them. I agree completely what you were saying earlier about outcomes. The quality of services, I think we need to raise the bar. That's one of the things that I've had difficulty dealing with since I've been here, is the lack of quality of services. I think we need regular meetings, and also I'm on the Connections to Care. We've talked about the importance of a centralized location, because there is a lack of communication within this county about what's available. We need that centralized location that can help guide people, that can get the information out there, that can market, this is the number you call, this is the place you go, this is where you can get help. We need to get that information out there so people know. Peer support is an up-and-coming service. Right now, I checked the DHS, the North Carolina DHS website, and it looks like that the legislature is in the process of revising that service. But VIA is helping a lot. VIA has been more supportive, I think, than any LME that this county's had so far. And they're helping. But we've talked in the meetings about the importance of having some type of centralized location that people know they can call, they can go, and there's going to be someone there that's going to be able to help them navigate the system and the services that are available. I think it's important that we use the money to not only support services we have here, but look at the gaps in service where we can start. This is, to me, just a start. Today, someone in our meeting said, if you look at that money over this span of time, you're looking at $25,000 a year. That's not a lot. It's not a lot of money. But we got to start with what we have, enhance what we have, look at the gaps in service, and build from there.
Okay, good. Commissioner Mendenhall, you have comments, questions?
Very good.
No, I've learned a lot. I guess where I was a guidance counselor before I became a teacher, or I became a principal, on down. I started out in counseling. I'm a master's in guidance. And of course, I started back in '80. So what's happened from now to then has changed a lot. And I saw it changing as a principal of a high school when I was at North Stokes. Saw it changing even more when I was superintendent. I had to deal with 19 schools. And it was very tough to have to see some of the things that occurred at some of the high schools. It's very difficult. When you get kids that are 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and let's just face reality, go home and turn your TV on to 2 or 3 different stations, and there are several things that are brought up. One of the things I always brought up is how the drugs is crossing the southern border, and they're getting into all the different states in the United States, all the different counties. You don't have to be a big county. Some people think it takes some place like New York City, but it doesn't. A place like Stokes County has the same issue. Maybe not on as big a scale, but they have the same issues. And I've seen some kids, some great kids, that I've had to go to their funeral when I was principal. And I went to their funeral, and it was a result of a drug overdose. And that's a really hard thing to do. You had a student there on Friday, you go going to the funeral on Monday. And I'm going to tell you, if you got any kind of heart at all, that doesn't get to you, nothing will. So as far as visibility or central location, I agree with that completely. The point person, I've been going back through my head with that since Commissioner Chandler brought that up, but see a lot of good things in this. My computer's acting up, that's why I asked for a hard copy. It's come back up now. But I know when you have subcommittees, but if you find something that is working in another county really well, you need to take the good parts of that and bring it on board, I believe. That's my opinion. It's really working well. And I know, my mother is from Wilkes County, so I know Wilkes County like the back of my hand. You know, they have Wilkes Central, North Wilkes, West Wilkes, and East Wilkes. And if you've ever gone to North Wilkes, if you can find it on the map, you're doing good. No service of any kind. I got lost way before GPS ever came around going up there, but I'm gonna tell you, I see some things I like on here. And did I hear you say 17 years?
Yeah, they give it to us over the span of 17 years, so we'll get a little bit each year.
17 years, and we get a little bit every year for 17 years.
Yeah, it was 18 years total, but we've already been through a year, so 17 years
So
left.
what I would certainly suggest is, as he's brought forth, is I think the commissioners are going to have to try to get together, work together, and come up with, you may have to skim this down a little bit. Down a little bit, but it's certainly something that we've got to do is work. If something like this isn't worthwhile, that is. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm just saying, we've got to work toward executing a plan for this.
Sounds good. Okay, I have some process-oriented questions related to this. We have how much money now of this opioid settlement money?
About 500,000.
And another 200 and some will drop this summer.
So I said we'll have 700 to start with. Then we get a small amount each year after that, right?
Yes.
I think Wanda said 25 or somebody did.
And I can, yeah.
We start getting 177, 331. And that is all the way through the very end of 2013.
Okay, so we're gonna get 177,000 a year out there at the end, and then 200,000 a year basically, and we've got this little
It was front.
dash on the front end that's a little
It was
bigger than
front
that.
loaded, yeah.
So when do we have to make a decision on that first 700,000?
There's not a specific timeline given as far
Okay,
as when you have to make the first decision to start spending it.
where's it at? Is it in the bank?
Yeah, we have it in our account.
Oh, we got it in the bank, and we can spend it anytime we, and nobody's gonna question when we spend it?
Let me
Or how long
interject
we
this.
take?
I was looking up some of what the other states are doing, and a lot of other states are, and counties are right where we're at, kind of
The plan.
trying to plan it out and see,
Okay.
you know, and see what's working other places. So we're not
I'll,
real behind on it or
So
nothing.
nobody's gonna take it from us if we take some time.
I'll double check on the timeline just to make sure, but I mean, this is like settlement money that we've received as payback
Yeah.
from these companies. So
Okay.
it's not like the federal government's giving us a grant or anything. You know what I
Okay.
mean? It's settlement money. So, and it,
There will be reporting and
Yeah.
outcomes that have to be.
Yes.
to
Yeah.
One thing I
That's
guess our
true.
board needs to decide is when we're gonna decide about this first 700. Pick a date, right? You've got 13 things here on here that all are in compliance with a section B thing, right? You do any one of those, they're good. So what you want us to do is to take this relatively small amount of money, especially after this year, it goes to 200 and something, then 170 or whatever. And you want us to figure out of this 13 things, what's the best way to spend that money? Well, each one of these items has a scope to it, it has a cost to it, it has performance objectives, what's successful, what's unsuccessful, right? Each one of them, they're like a separate little contract, you could say, basically. So, you know, my concern is, I mean, we could split our money 13 ways, and we'd probably get nothing out of it if we did that. So I think, kind of back to the point that's made by Brad and a couple of others, I mean, this is like, I used to be in the program management business. I was program manager. I was told to go do a certain thing. I was given a certain amount of money to do it with. I went and hired who I needed to do it, and then they reported to me regularly on whether they were successful or not, and if they weren't, I took the money back, or I didn't give them any more. So that kind of, I think that kind of accountability needs to be in place, and whether it takes a single person doing that, but you know, what if we just spent every bit of the money we got on one of these 13 things? That might be the smartest way to do it. Is that true or not? I mean, to get the maximum return on investment. Or if not one, how many? You know, that's what I'm
Well,
asking.
there's four. There's treatment, prevention, recovery. There's 4 areas, so maybe you divide it into 4 areas.
Yeah, that's a possibility, but you
Something like that.
we absolutely have to define the scope of what it is we're buying with this money. We have to have a way to measure it and get reported back to on it so we can determine if it's a successful outcome or not. And then we need to ditch the ones quickly that are not giving a return on investment and maybe shift to something that is. But I think, you know, we got to have a process for doing this, or the money will really just get totally wasted, I'm afraid, or it'll just be so convoluted that nobody will notice the difference.
That's what I've been saying too. You
Yeah.
really want people to be able to tell it's making a difference.
Yeah, and I
This
think
helping.
prevention's really important as well as, you know, obviously the other 3 areas are too, but I think maybe we don't do all 4. Maybe we do 2 of the 4 or something. But we need some really good advice on how to do that, and we need to do it fairly quickly if we've got the money. There's no use in waiting around. I mean, it's
How do
just,
they get it right?
Yeah,
Russian.
well, I don't want to rush it,
I
but
agree, Brad.
but you know, are we going to wait
We've
till
had-
next year's money comes in before we do anything with this year's money, or what? What's the
I feel
plan?
like this summer, maybe take from now through the summer to try to nail it down. Because like I say, we're working on budget too.
I'm not expert in this, so I'm just kind of going through the process. Taking the summer's fine with me if that makes sense.
Well, I think the appointed committee could take these 13 recommendations and come up with 2 or 3 things that have outcomes, that have a way to measure, that have a cost associated with it,
Yeah,
and maybe bring that back.
yeah, just narrow it down. I'm not used to having people give me money and say, just spend it when you feel like it. The most money I've ever got, if you didn't get a plan in place and spend it relatively quickly, they took it back from you. That's what I used to do as program manager, take it back from them if they didn't do what I told them to.
It's amazing to me that some states have not passed any legislation to keep track of this settlement money, of how it's being spent. North Carolina is
Well,
one
we
of
definitely need to do that. That goes without
There's so
saying.
many states that are still involved in this.
There's another
West-
There's
settlement.
another lawsuit coming here.
West Virginia just won a $68 million lawsuit against Kroger yesterday. They had the attorney.
Yeah, there are more settlements in process.
I guess we need to give you guys some guidance here pretty soon on what process we want you to use and how far you need to narrow this down, and so that we can put a plan in place to get the money spent
And I'll double check on the timeline
for
too.
the right things. Okay, good.
And
That'd
like
be good.
Kai said, there's possibility of more money coming down the pipe, you know, so, and the things that fall into place that we're able to spend this money on and we see good results and good outcomes from, it's possible, even after this money runs out in 17 years, that there will be grants and other things that we can apply for to keep some of the things going, as well as faith-based, private ways to keep funding. If it's working, we can keep funded. We'll
That's
find
fine.
money even if this runs out.
It's important that we address it and fix it, because the problems associated with this create a whole new set of problems.
Well, it's just like
Big
somebody was
things.
telling me the other day, like on the prevention side of things, you know, when people first started saying, you know, you gotta wear seatbelts, and a lot of people were like, no, I don't want nobody telling me I gotta wear a seatbelt, but, you know, and even smoking cigarettes for years, you know, and we've got things that have happened. I mean, I think to show harmful effects of different things, I think if there was a way to have a national campaign of prevention of drugs besides DARE and some of these other things that we've been doing for a while that would show the harmful effects, and maybe even for parents to say, this is what you need to be looking for in your kid's bedroom, or this is what you need to be watching out for if your kids start doing, and educating parents and kids. Like, you can try this one time and you might get hooked. This person might try it one time and they might not. You know, but do you really want to gamble and try? You know, you may try it one time and die because now you've got fentanyl mixed with cocaine. And you thought, well, cocaine's relatively safe. Well, no, it's not. Not if it's mixed with fentanyl. You know, I mean, even marijuana, they're mixing fentanyl in. So that's the whole key, is to get these kids and these young people addicted. And and a lot, they don't even know. So many of them don't have a clue that these things can be mixed in. And, you know, I'm not saying spend all the money in that pot, but if you never get hooked on it, how many people, Tammy, if they say, if I could go back?
They asked me to come and speak at Surrey High School last week, and they had a whole week of prevention, and it was really awesome. They had everybody there, but they had classrooms set up for faith-based people to come in and share testimonies and stuff. And one of the things, I didn't want to share all the negative things because I hate to say this, but a lot of people know the kids. They have that boldness. They don't think it's going to be them. I think another thing in prevention is that we're actually sharing other positive things for these kids to do in our community, that we're building stuff too. You know what I mean? And with the sustainability of peer support and housing, if you have a work program, we started a work program, a stewardship program, and these people are getting their lives back by working, and like Wanda said, most of them don't have money to pay for their Suboxone or whatever treatments they have. Getting them into a work program is going to be work therapy, nature therapy, and giving them something actually hopeful to do is going to be great. And you have to have that.
That's key.
And one of the problems that we've had about transitional housing and even long-term faith-based recovery, because most recovery that they mark in some of these places is 30 days, and then they're back into a kind of like where your nephew went, and you're back in an environment that they haven't had time enough to clear their mind. I think in Surrey County, their community paramedic will actually come into a place and dose them. And for me, as doing recovery, if somebody would come in and take care of that, I'm all for it. Whatever is good for the people, I'm down with. But you know, being faith-based and not having the money to pay a nurse to distribute medicine, you know, so that's a big miss. And you know, transportation, housing, and then actually giving them a job. Work, and we've actually started hiring or going out to the community and looking for people who will hire these people. And the people that were hiring our girls, they love them. They said it's a joy because they're coming in there, they're clear-minded, they're getting their lives back together, and they're positive and they're drug tested. So you got a clean. We're doing the work for them, and the people that's hiring them are loving them. They're paying them $15 to $20 an hour because they can't find workers out there. So if you have a work program associated with Get Your Life Back Together program and medically assisted and getting them where they need to get, you know, you can make a change.
It's those recovery supports. In working at DSS, the people that I've seen, the clients I've seen who are more successful in their recovery are those who we have got in places where they get all that recovery
Okay, good. Well, what we need to do is pick out of this 13 things, the items that will most effectively accomplish what you guys just said. So I think we need to get back to the group with some guidance
Yeah,
on
this is.
how to proceed, right? Everybody
Yeah,
agree?
I think so, and maybe,
Enough on this tonight.
you know, let
I want a
the,
hard copy now, cause I gotta take some major
Maybe-
notes the next few weeks.
let the appointed committee come back with, top 3 or 4 too, and then we can kind of compare notes.
Yeah, we'll put it on the
Thank
agenda
you.
pretty soon.
This is what the recommendations are. This is the state document.
Right. Thanks.
Thank you, Derek.
Okay, thank y'all.
We appreciate it.
Y'all wanna have a break or?
Yeah.
Now let's
Yeah.
wrap it up.
Well, or when we get to action, we can do a couple more things.
I can go all the way through if you want to.
I'll need a break.
Just 5 minutes. I just need it.
5 minutes now, okay, let's do 5 minutes
5 minutes
now.
now. I peed.
Okay, I'll call our meeting back to order from recess. Our next item on the discussion agenda is Walnut Cove Senior Center Advisory Council. I think Amber's going to comment on that.
Yeah. So there's currently a vacancy on the Walnut Cove Senior Center Advisory Council, as Commissioner Morris said. It's been vacant and posted on the website for months, probably even over a year if I had to guess. It's been there for a long time with no interest. So I received an application from Commissioner Wood, who I think someone over at the Senior Center had asked if he would be willing to serve, and he said he was. So we can consider his application at the board.
Can we open the floor for nominations then?
Yeah.
I move that we close the nomination.
Nominate him
Oh,
first.
yeah, I nominate him and close the nomination.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Then we'll just move it to action for the next meeting.
That sounds good. Okay, the next item I asked to be added to the agenda, I would like the staff to figure out what we have to do to have an unsecure Wi-Fi connection in the building here, just for the public to use when they come to meetings, and for us to use when we need to, and for everybody that comes here and does business. It's fairly simple to do, I think. I mean, if I can do it at home, it can't be too complicated. So, and we probably should look beyond this building if we have other. I think some of our buildings have Wi-Fi, don't they already? Or
Some of them do, yes, sir.
so, I mean, look at across the board.
Something that, I know you talk about Glenn coming back next week, we could look at the different buildings and what they're doing, and
Yeah.
I know the courthouse might have to do their own thing as far as that goes, but
Be fine.
Yeah, I know.
there's not a redundancy of,
He was looking into some of that, but I don't know how far he got because he obviously wasn't able to present us with a report or anything. So we'll just have to ask him when he
Some of
gets
it he's
back.
done.
Yeah, I know he was looking into River Street and their work with Broadband, but also our Wi-Fi connections with them.
Okay, sounds good. So
I think that's a good idea.
you'll follow up with him when he gets back and bring us back something on what we need to do. So we're kind of up to date on that. The next item on the agenda is, does anybody have any other comments on that or questions? The next item is budget guidance. If anybody has any particular budget guidance you want to give to the county manager, she's got like 2 weeks away from delivering us a budget, so.
I did have, but I forgot now.
Email me.
I need to write that down.
You can email it or text it or call, whichever, okay.
Soon.
You might, yeah, soon, right?
Wore out.
Okay, so anybody else have anything in that one? Budget guidance, okay. Okay, we'll go to the action agenda. The first item is our benefits and insurance renewal for FY 23-24. Amber, if you want to just make a comment or two on that, then we'll.
Yeah, so this is when Cypress Benefit Solutions and Zach Brock came to present at the last meeting, and they recommended, or they proposed the 5% increase, which they had to do to make it work. And they just want to make sure we can approve that. And anything else that we want to consider as far as, I know Commissioner Chandler had asked about the life insurance for retirees, we can consider in the budget work sessions if that's okay, so we can have further discussion on that. Because I know HR was getting some of those numbers together, so they have that for the commissioners. We can just talk about that in budget session.
They will have it in
But then we
budget.
just need to know, approve the 5% increase and what those rates are.
Okay.
So that way we can put that into the budget.
Okay, get a motion for that?
Make a motion to approve item A, benefits and insurance renewal.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes. Next one is next item in the action agenda is JCPC FY 23-24 funding allocation request. I think the motion for this is to approve the amount that we've been given JCPC.
Well, I think it was an additional 50,000.
Well,
Yeah, and then look at that in the budget.
yes.
Look at the additional 50,000 in the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just looking right now at what we've been given.
Yeah, that way we can consider further in the budget work session. That's what y'all talked about last time. That way they at least know they're funded for what they have been.
For the
And then we can-
amount they've been getting.
Yeah, and then we can consider the request during the budget work sessions.
Okay, can we get
Motion
them?
that we approve, giving them, approving right now the amount that they've been receiving in the past.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Next one is the Animal Control Advisory Board appointment. We have had some additional applications since the last meeting, so we need to open the floor for any further nominations from those. Just a little overview before we get into that. We have, I think, 5 positions on there that are pretty well prescripted by the bylaws. We have a person for 4 of those. I don't think have the veterinarian locked in yet. So that'll be one that still be open, but we will fill it with a veterinarian as soon as we can get a veterinarian. Then we have 4, we'll have 4 at-large positions, and the bylaws say they should come from different sections of the county. So we have a map that was provided in the agenda that divides the county into 4 segments, and so we'll look at nominating and selecting or appointing somebody from a person from each of those segments.
Mr. Chairman, back where you said, I see we got Candace as the rescue organization member. My screen is only showing, I see Wade White from the sheriff's office, Sandra Smith from the health department, the veterinarian would be 4. Did you say it was 4 or 5?
And then the 5th one will be Lori Shore-Smith, because it's the chief animal control officer is the 5th.
So okay.
She's automatically in that.
Yeah, she's on it. So that makes the 5.
Okay.
And then we got the 4 at large. And the applications were provided in your agenda for your review. And so I think I suggested earlier, if it's good with everybody, that we'll take each of these 4 quadrants and we have the names listed in where they live in each quadrant. We'll just go by quadrant and poll and pick one person from each of the quadrants. Is that good with everybody?
And can someone just nominate those individuals that applied since last time? Since they
Yeah, we
haven't
do need to-
officially been nominated yet.
Need to open the
I'll
floor.
nominate the ones that have applied since, which is Anthony May, Juan Gladwell, Kathleen Edwards, David Bennett, Gary East, and Charles Tommy Reeves, and Teddy Miller.
Okay.
So those are, we'll nominate all the ones that have applied. That is the whole slate, and then we can poll based on the quadrants.
That whole list, yeah.
Okay.
So there's no further nominations, so motion to close the nominations.
Make a motion to close.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. So let's poll, everybody's got the map in front of them. Let's say start in the upper left-hand quadrant. The names are David Bennett, Charles Reeves, Susan Hathcock, and Kathleen Edwards. So I'll go back and forth each way. So I'll start with you on this one, Commissioner Mendenhall. Reeves. Okay, who you? Brad, you got one for that quadrant?
I'll go with Reeves.
I'll go with Hathcock.
Reeves.
Reeves.
Okay. So Reeves will be the person from that quadrant. Okay, go to the right. We have the upper right-hand quadrant, which has Dwan Glidewell, Gary East, and Teddy Kiltzmiller. So start on your end this time.
East.
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 Okay, we'll go down to the southeast quadrant, and we have 2 names there, Cindy Tilley and Shannon Shaver. And we'll start with Commissioner Mendenhall this time.
Oh, jeez. Shaver.
Shaver.
Tilley?
Shaver.
Shaver.
Okay. So Shaver will be the one for the southeast quadrant, and then the last quadrant is Anthony May, Sonia Nieburl, Bob Sullivan, Lisa Ferguson, and Sandra Robinson. We'll start with your end.
Mabe.
Maybe.
Sandra Robinson for me.
Mabe.
Hey,
Okay. Okay, so that then fills the other 4 positions, right?
Yep.
So we're finished with the appointments, with the exception of having a veterinarian, which we will appoint as soon as somebody
And
can.
if you will, just, if
bring
someone
us
could just
one.
make a motion, I I guess, to approve the other 4. I know that they have to be in those selected spots, but can we still appoint those? Like Candace Lloyd to
Yeah.
her spot, and then Lori Shore Smith for the chief animal control, then Sandra Smith for
Need a
health.
poll for those, really?
Yeah, you can just say list as presented is fine.
Yeah.
But as long as we just want to make sure to officially nominate those people to the board.
Okay. Start with Commissioner Mendenhall. You want to do the list
Sure,
as?
be glad to. Candace Lloyd, Wade White, Sandra Smith, Lori Smith, and we don't have a vet, so
That's it.
my
Okay.
4.
You're good. That's your 4. Commissioner Chandler?
Yes.
Same 4.
Same.
Same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so now we're finished with that except for the vet, right? All righty. So that's the,
Are these staggered terms that they'll expire after, like, 2-year terms, or I can't remember? You know, Amber?
Let me see how it's set up right now. Says
bylaws.
it says shall appoint half of the non-county employee appointments to a term of 1 year, and the remaining non-county employee appointments to an initial 2-year term. Thereafter, all non-county employee members shall be appointed for 2-year terms.
So the citizen ones that we just did from the different quadrants are 2-year.
To a term of Commissioner shall appoint half of the non-county appointments to a term of 1 year, and the remaining non-county employee appointments to initial 2-year terms. So that's what it says.
It's supposed to rotate.
So they all,
Yeah, it says
It's supposed to be that, from the way I read it, that they're not supposed to rotate off at different times. So you have that revolving.
So we're reappointing them all at one time, aren't we? So do we need to designate then
I
certain
guess
ones?
I guess you need to designate which ones you want for the 1 year term and which ones you want for the 2-year terms.
Okay. What's the best process for doing that? Does it really matter?
the attorney. The
Not
attorneys.
sure.
Draw them
As long as
out
we
of a
have-
hat, just draw them out of a hat.
That's why I was thinking, as long as we have staggered terms, why don't we just do like a list and every other one has a 2-year term or something?
Mm-hmm. Be fine as long as it's random, I think.
Well, I mean, I have them written down. You just want the first and the third to be 1 year, and then the second and fourth be.
And we don't know what order you got them in, so
Yeah,
that's
so
fine.
just tell us, after you
Yeah.
mark them, tell us who's got 2 and who's got a 1-year
That's
term.
fine.
Okay.
And does that apply to the animal rescue organization person as well? They're non-county?
In the bylaws, I don't think it addresses.
It just says
it
non-county
doesn't really
employee.
address that specifically, so I assume
It doesn't
they're all
say-
treated the same if it's not specified.
And then when the veterinarian is on there, you'll have to designate
Do that too.
Yeah.
Like,
Plus, we can reappoint people to additional terms if
Yeah.
we need to
Yeah.
as well, so it's not a really big deal. If you have somebody on there that needs to stay on there, you can keep them on there. Okay, so now tell me who's got which
okay,
term.
so Charles Reeves is a 1 year term, along with Anthony Mabe, and then Gary East and Shannon Shaver is a 2-year terms.
Okay,
Okay, that's fine.
got it.
Just needed some way to stagger it.
Yep, that's good. Now they have an even vote. They need an odd person. They need to get the vet on there so they can break a tie. Work on that.
Look there, I'm back.
All righty. Okay, so our next item on the agenda is the planning and zoning fee schedule revision. Get a motion on that.
Motion to approve the planning and zoning fee schedule revision.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, the next item on our agenda is the restoration of authority for county managers for hiring and discipline of department heads. Get a motion.
Make a motion that the county manager be in charge of hiring and disciplining the department heads.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. And then the last item, is this next to the last item, we added something.
Yeah, we added two things.
Proclamation for recognizing Foster Care Month, which it was in your agenda. Get a motion for approval of that.
Motion to approve.
Very important thing to recognize people who do foster care. It's such an important area. It affects lives. So, any discussion or question on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, what we add, Amber, to
The first item G, we added the request to change the position type of the DSS employees, changing that to 2 part-time positions, and that's also budget amendment number 78.
Okay, good. Can we get a
Motion to approve budget amendment 78.
Second.
the change over to what are they?
Contract to a
Or
part-time.
contract to
Yeah.
part-time.
But
Temporary
Straight
part-time.
part-time, temporary.
Temporary part-time.
Temporary
Budget amendment
part-time.
78
Yes,
indicates
yes.
that, does it not?
Yeah,
Thank you.
temporary part-time. Okay. Any further questions, discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? What else? Do we have one more?
And then the item H, the Board of Health appointments
Oh, yeah.
for
Okay.
Keith Lawson, Tim Mabe as dentist, and then Ross Kaiser as a pharmacist.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have to poll for that, or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
List it,
Yeah.
just the list.
Hang on just a minute then. What was that? Board of Health?
Yes, sir.
Hang on, let me get to that on my computer. Okay, I usually start with May down here, Lawson, Mabe, and Kaiser.
Same.
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 All right, then that item of business is concluded, right?
Yes, sir.
So we're now ready to go into closed session. Can you read the rationale? Amber, if you would.
To consider and take action with respect to the position to be taken by the county in negotiating the price or other material terms of an agreement for the acquisition or lease of real property pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A5, and to consider the initial employment or appointment of an individual to any office or position other than a vacancy in the Board of County Commissioners or any other public body, or to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, and fitness of any public officer or employee other than a member of the Board of Commissioners or of some other public body pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A6.
Make a motion to go into close.
Second, anybody?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, get us in closed session. See you, man. Okay, we're back on. Okay, we're now back in open session. If we have no further business, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
2 seconds needed.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.
I'll remind everybody about the